Chapter 921 Kill Ambush. They traveled for 5 days straight, stopping only for brief rests along the way. During these 5 days, the two barely spoke to each other. Ji Ruobing, being the cold and frosty type, had stopped initiating conversation ever since she was brushed off by Su Zimo the last time she tried. Su Zimo also enjoyed the silence. Although they traveled together, they were no different from strangers. That afternoon, the two had just left a city named Yueqing. Su Zimo, who had been lying on the back of the dark sky tiger, suddenly sat up. "There's killing intent," Ji Ruobing also said with a grave expression. "Who would be hunting us? Did you cause trouble?" Su Zimo asked. "I don't know. Maybe it's you who did," Ji Ruobing shot back without yielding. While they spoke, their mounts suddenly stopped. Looking ahead, they saw 3 figures seated not far away. In the middle of these 3 figures, a bonfire burned slowly. The red flames outlined the image of blood. The 3 were silent, simply sitting by the fire. One held a jade flute, another was painting with a brush, while the last quietly polished a long sword. The 3 of them together formed a strange and eerie picture. At this moment, less than 20 meters apart, they faced one another across the fire. "The fire is about to die out," the man with the brush said blandly. "The fuel has arrived," the sword-wielding man replied hoarsely. The last one only gave a sinister, chilling smile, saying nothing. "Do you gentlemen have some business?" Ji Ruobing stepped forward and asked. "Just borrowing something." The swordsman slowly lifted his head. His face was pale, unnaturally pale. Deadfish eyes, wind-blocking ears, a long face. He looked at people the same way one would look at a corpse. "Borrow what?" Ji Ruobing asked. "Your head," the man answered calmly, still unhurriedly polishing his sword. "This has nothing to do with me and her." Su Zimo coughed a few times on the side and said, "I'm blind. I didn't see anything. If it doesn't concern me, I'll just leave, all right?" Hearing this, Ji Ruobing glared at him furiously. "Little guy, don't play dumb." Another man looked at Su Zimo and laughed. "I know during the calamity of Heavenly Tao Academy you had major contributions. You're not so simple. You investigated me so thoroughly?" Su Zimo scratched his head awkwardly. "The holy son of true martial sacred ground. How would we dare neglect that?" The jade flute man said with a smile. "So you plan to kill me too?" Su Zimo asked. "No, we only need to take you to meet someone. But she must die." The man pointed at Ji Ruobing as he spoke to Su Zimo. "Lu Chonghen sent you, didn't he?" Ji Ruobing laughed coldly, as if realizing something from their words. "Senior brother Lu has really gone to great lengths. I've been away from the lineage so long, yet he still keeps me in mind." "Who's Lu Chonghen?" Su Zimo asked curiously. "You should know our Slaughter immortal lineage has both a holy son and a saintess," Ji Ruobing explained. "I am the saintess, and Lu Chonghen is the holy son. Although it's supposed to be fair competition, open and hidden struggles are inevitable. That senior brother of mine very much wishes to see me dead. Shouldn't have asked you to come along." Su Zimo shook his head regretfully. "Now I've been dragged into this mess. Can't you take a little responsibility?" Ji Ruobing snapped angrily at his words. "Responsibility? We're not even close," Su Zimo replied. "But looking at the situation, it seems I can't just walk away either." "Oh?" Seeing the 3 opponents, Ji Ruobing slowly drew the long sword from her waist. Frost spread along the sword tip. "Master Su better stay aside for now. Our target is the Saintess Ji," the man with the brush said. He drew a stroke in the air with his brush. In the next moment, the entire sky trembled. Su Zimo noticed that a formation appeared beneath his feet. To be precise, it wasn't an ordinary formation, it was a talisman formation. The formation was formed from enlarged talisman characters, directly separating Su Zimo from the dark sky tiger. It was like an independent space trapping Su Zimo within. All around him, countless talismans were plastered, different colors, different patterns. A talisman formation. This is the first time I've seen one, Su Zimo chuckled. I know you're powerful, Holy Sun Tzu, but this talisman formation was created especially for you, the brush holder said. This formation contains 49 layers, designed with the principle of 9 nines returning to 1. I won't hide it, this formation can't hold you forever, but it can restrain you for a while. Su Zimo frowned slightly. To break the formation, he had to study its changes. He brought out the Heaven Derivation Astrolabe, a tool he had prepared for formations. Using the star disk to deduce the variations of the formation would take time. Meanwhile, the other two had already stopped wasting words with Ji Ruobing. One of them raised his long sword, and in an instant, the sword grew to hundreds of times its size. He hurled the massive sword forward. The giant sword tore through silent space, shattering illusions, slashing straight at Ji Ruobing. From sheer size alone, it was dozens of times larger than Ji Ruobing herself. Seeing it approach, Ji Ruobing frowned. She swung her sword to try and divert the giant sword's path. A deafening boom erupted as the two swords clashed. Ji Ruobing's figure was knocked flying backward, but the giant sword was also deflected off to the side. The man's figure flickered, leaving countless afterimages in the air. In the next moment, he was already behind the giant sword. Lifting it again, he cleaved down at Ji Ruobing. This strike was heavy and unstoppable, splitting the void itself, descending with overwhelming might. Ji Ruobing's expression grew grim. With a twist of her wrist, her sword traced a flower-like pattern, unleashing an ancient sword technique. Her body became ethereal and elusive, but when the blow landed, she was still blasted backward. Overwhelming strength, Su Zimo remarked on the side. This man used nothing but brute force, no fancy tricks. He was clearly far beyond the entry level of the immortal realm. Ji Ruobing steadied herself in the void. Behind her, the myriad tribulation cone spun relentlessly. She directly summoned her true fate. The pressure from her opponent was greater than ever before. Lightning tribulation, she called out softly. From the cone, countless bolts of lightning descended. As expected of a saintess. Interesting. The man laughed. Meanwhile, the jade flute wielder slowly stood up as well. His blue lips parted slightly, and the sound of the flute filled the air. At the moment it played, the heavens and earth fell into emptiness. It was as though all things became utterly still. Chapter 922 Nomological Truth of Speed va Slowness. A fallen leaf drifted slowly in the void. It was as if some kind of delaying spell had been cast upon it, making it move especially slow. And not just the leaf, everything in this world seemed to instantly delay, slowing down. The nomological truth of speed and slowness? Ji Ruobing frowned and said. The sound of the jade flute echoed through heaven and earth, telling the tale of a hunter chasing its prey. The flute melody was tense and tight, almost like the strumming of a pipa, urging steeds to gallop and drink before the battle. How many have ever returned from ancient wars? As the flute played, even Ji Ruobing's movements were affected. The myriad tribulation cone that had been spinning rapidly slowed down more and more. The thunder tribulation that appeared in the sky also weakened significantly. The sword-wielding man broke free from the swamp of lightning tribulation, and his enormous sword swept through the void. Chaotic slaughter in the dark night. The sword vanished, and so did the man. The next moment, countless sword intents appeared in the sky, coming from every direction. They surrounded Ji Ruobing. What followed was a scene of chaotic sword frenzy. The sound of clanging swords echoed continuously. It reverberated in the hollow void. After dodging several strikes in a row, Ji Ruobing was finally hit by one. Her opponent's speed was too fast. Even Su Zimo could only barely make out faint shadows. Su Zimo had always believed that there was a great chasm between the God Meridian realm and the arcane immortal realm. Though some geniuses of the God Meridian realm could challenge arcane immortal cultivators across realms, they could only challenge ordinary ones. One must know that among arcane immortals, there were also those who were exceptional in strength. These individuals could also be considered prodigies within their own realm. The three before him, in Su Zimo's eyes, were such top figures among the arcane immortal realm. The moment the first sword intent struck Ji Ruobing, countless more followed. Sword intents ripped apart the silent void, cutting it into countless fragments. And Ji Ruobing stood at the very center, every sword intent slashing past her. Her white garments shattered, and blood scattered through the void. Now! Su Zimo shouted in a low voice. The heaven derivation astrolabe in his hand spun, radiating endless starlight. This starlight surged upward, enveloping the entire talisman formation. Every formation had an eye. Su Zimo threw a punch, shattering the core of the formation. The talisman formation dissipated into nothingness. Su Zimo's figure flashed, and the next moment he was already before Ji Ruobing. Go! He grabbed her with one hand and tore open the void with the other, vanishing from the scene. Seeing Ji Ruobing escape, the sword-wielding man wanted to pursue. But the Jade Flute Man stopped him. Let's return to report, the Jade Flute Man said calmly. But she escaped. The sword-wielding man replied in confusion. Just say the holy son of true martial sacred ground saved her. That is explanation enough. The Jade Flute Man replied flatly. Why not pursue? The sword-wielding man still asked, puzzled. Why pursue? The Jade Flute Man countered. We were ordered by young Master Lu to hunt her down. If we let her slip away so obviously, how do we explain ourselves? The sword-wielding man shook his head slightly, then turned to the talisman master. Second brother, what do you say? You still don't understand? Big brother just doesn't want trouble. The talisman man chuckled. Lu Chonghen and Ji Ruobing are competing for status within the immortal extinction sacred ground. The ties and implications here are immense. If one step is mishandled, none of us will have a good ending. Big brother wants to offend neither side? The sword-wielding man asked in surprise. Exactly. If we refused Lu Chonghen at the start, we would have offended him. But if we killed Ji Ruobing, those in the lineage who support her would never let us off. So, we agree with Lu Chonghen, but don't actually kill Ji Ruobing. That holy son of true martial sacred ground is the perfect unpredictable factor. The talisman man laughed. There's another reason, the Jade Flute Man added calmly. As the saintess of immortal extinction sacred ground, do you truly think she has no trump card? That she could be killed so easily? The sword-wielding man fell silent, lost in thought. Su Zimo carried Ji Ruobing, traversing the void until they reached a place 100 miles away before finally stopping. By now Ji Ruobing was gravely wounded, her garments completely soaked in blood. Even her consciousness had begun to blur. She forcefully swallowed a pill. Thank you. It's nothing. Su Zimo waved his hand, channeling a wisp of the tree of life's vitality into her body. It was enough to keep her alive. With her cultivation, even if nothing else was done, she would recover in time. It was just a matter of how long. Su Zimo placed Ji Ruobing atop a hillside, letting her heal. They didn't know exactly where they were, or how far they were from Immortal City. Su Zimo couldn't tell. He had avoided fighting those three for two reasons. First, they bore no true malice toward him and merely wished to trap him. There was no need to antagonize the immortal extinction sacred ground. Second, in a one-on-one fight, he wasn't afraid, but against all three together, even he would be outmatched. Autumn was a season of frequent rain. The weather was like a woman's temper, changing in an instant. A caravan passed along the road at the foot of the hill. Nearly 100 escorts accompanied it, guarding a single carriage. The carriage was made of purple heart wood, with a curtain engraved with the character Fan. The near 100 looked to be guards. The procession resembled a long dragon, imposing as it headed north. There's someone there, someone suddenly shouted, pointing up the hill. The escorts, clearly well-trained, immediately surrounded the hillside in formation. Who goes there? Step forward and explain yourself, asked an elder in green robes at the front, his voice strong. Don't misunderstand, Su Zimo said, carrying Ji Ruobing as he descended the hill. We were ambushed and fled here. I just need to know the way to Immortal City. The old man glanced at the blood-soaked Ji Ruobing in Su Zimo's arms, frowning. Then he said, "Follow this road north, pass a few more bends, and you'll reach Immortal City." Su Zimo frowned slightly. The route seemed complicated. It looked like he would have to ask along the way. "Uncle Chun, since they're heading the same way, let's travel together." A crisp, lark-like voice came from the carriage. "When traveling, it's good to look out for one another. We're headed to Immortal City anyway." Hearing the girl's words, the old man frowned. "Miss, these two's origins are unclear, and they've been hunted. This may not be wise." Chapter 9:23. An accident. "Those who were chasing us have already left. You don't need to worry." Su Zimo waved his hand and smiled. "I don't think this young master looks like a bad person. If you're willing, come along with us." The voice of the woman in the sedan chair sounded again. The old man slightly shook his head and sighed. "Miss, you can know a face but not a heart." He looked at Su Zimo with a less than pleasant expression and said, "Since my lady has spoken, you can follow behind the convoy. But I'll say this first, if it's your trouble, you handle it yourself. Don't drag us into it." "Rest assured." Su Zimo nodded. The guards brought him a horse. Su Zimo placed Ji Ruobing on it and rode behind, slowly following the convoy forward. He had originally intended to ride the Dark Sky Tiger, but feared it would cause too much of a stir. These people's strength was only at the true meridian. Even the strongest old man was only at the Imperial Meridian realm. The Dark Sky Tiger was already an Empyrean beast now. As long as they could reach Immortal City safely, it was fine. Being too conspicuous was not good. The sky was drizzling lightly. The convoy moved slowly along the Great Road. After traveling some distance, night gradually fell. The convoy found an open area to set up camp and rest. They were clearly used to this, moving with practiced ease. They set up over a dozen large pots, with meat and vegetables they had brought along. Some went to fetch water nearby and started cooking. Ji Ruobing was currently in a state of emptiness, healing herself. Su Zimo checked with his senses and, finding nothing wrong, left her alone. He found a relatively secluded spot to rest for the night. Not long after sitting down, he saw a woman emerge from the sedan chair. The woman's looks could earn 8 points out of 10. She wore a long cyan robe embroidered with small flowers. Her hair was braided into 2 buns on top of her head, like lion heads. Her cheeks were slightly round, and when she smiled, a shallow dimple appeared on her left cheek. The young woman walked up to Su Zimo, bowed slightly, and asked, "May I know how to address this young master?" Su Zimo replied. "Young Master Su, is that young lady gravely injured?" The young woman continued. "She's hurt, but it's nothing serious." Su Zimo shook his head with a smile. "My lady asked me to come ask you, if she is badly injured, she can rest in her tent tonight." The maid smiled gently. "It's raining today, and the ground is damp. That could worsen her injuries." "Thank you," Su Zimo nodded. He looked at Ji Ruobing and said with a smile, "It's inconvenient to keep her with me. Then I'll trouble your lady. Please thank her for me." "It's nothing. My lady is kind-hearted." The maid smiled. "Our fan clan of Victory City is well known. Everyone says the young lady is like a fairy descended, a great benefactor." Su Zimo chuckled softly, carrying Ji Ruobing to the lady's tent. From nearby, there was a faint lavender fragrance in the air. It wasn't convenient for him to enter. After handing Ji Ruobing over to the maid, he left. The black cloth over his eyes seemed a bit dirty, so he took it off and replaced it with a new strip. At that moment, footsteps approached from the side. Su Zimo tilted his head slightly. He could sense the spirit force in everyone's bodies here. This person had the strongest spirit force, likely the Imperial Meridian Realm old man. The old man stood before Su Zimo, his tone stiff as he said, "If you're sensible, leave quickly." "You seem to have a big problem with me?" Su Zimo asked calmly. "No problem. We just don't welcome you," the old man said coldly. "But your lady welcomes me," Su Zimo laughed. "I've said what I needed to say. If you won't leave, don't blame me if something happens. The old man replied before turning and walking away. Su Zimo frowned slightly, then let it go with a small smile. Not long after, a rich aroma of meat drifted over from nearby. A man with a cropped haircut, wearing a black short-sleeved shirt, walked up to Su Zimo. He carried a bowl in each hand. He handed the bowl in his right hand to Su Zimo and said heartily, "Kid, this was ordered for you by our young lady." Su Zimo took the meat soup and softly said thank you. The bowl was filled with meat and broth, seemingly cooked with precious herbs. The man didn't mind and sat down beside Su Zimo. Drinking from his own bowl of meat soup, he laughed boisterously. "Brother, what did you do to get chased like that?" "It's the woman who's unconscious that was being hunted. Not me." Su Zimo shook his head. "I just got caught up in it." "Unlucky for you then." The man laughed loudly without a trace of doubt. "And you all? I saw your convoy's banners have the fan character. Are you also heading to Immortal City?" Su Zimo asked. "That's right. We're from the fan clan of Victory City," the man said directly, without hiding it. "You must not be from around here. Our fan clan is famous in Victory City and nearby areas. We specialize in the trade of elixirs." Speaking of the fan clan, the man's face was full of pride. "Our fan clan's business spreads throughout the entire Overlord region. This time our branch in Immortal City seems to be in trouble, so our young lady is going to handle it," the man said. "Couldn't the people below handle it? Why does your lady need to go personally?" Su Zimo asked in puzzlement. The big man was about to answer, but the old man of the convoy called him over. It was obvious the old man disliked Su Zimo and had a big opinion of him. Su Zimo didn't mind. Instead, he grew a little curious about this young lady of the fan clan. But she hadn't come out of the carriage earlier. When they set up camp, she had gone straight into her tent. So Su Zimo hadn't gotten a good look. After dinner, the group dispersed. Some rested, others stood guard. The moon in the sky was round, and the night was quiet, almost wordless. When the eastern sky began to brighten, the convoy was already tidying up to set out again. The maid from last night came again, looked at Su Zimo and said, "My lady asked me to tell you the young woman is still healing. If you're at ease, she can ride in my lady's carriage with us. If not, you can keep her on horseback as yesterday." "There's nothing to worry about," Su Zimo waved. The convoy finished preparations and continued heading north. The vegetation grew denser along the way, the forest thicker. It was almost impossible to see any signs of people, only occasionally a lone bird flying above the treetops. At that moment, a sharp bird cry sounded from nearby. The convoy reacted like startled birds. The old man shouted loudly, "Be on guard!" The convoy instantly stopped, surrounding the sedan chair, everyone forming a battle formation. Chapter 924, The Turmoil Settled, Empyrean Meridian Made. When everyone surrounded the carriage, Su Zimo lifted his head and sensed in the direction the sound had come from. Not far to the north, a massive figure charged forward. Behind that figure, more than a dozen others followed. "Crown birds," someone in the convoy shouted. "It's the One Clan. Only they raise crown birds." As the figures drew closer, they could be clearly seen. These birds were entirely iron blue, like forged steel. Their feathers were sparse, but each one was incomparably tough. Their eyes were devoid of any emotion, like true killers. At this moment, riding on the backs of these birds were groups of people. "Miss Fan, where are you heading?" A middle-aged man in blue robes laughed loudly from atop one of the birds. "Housekeeper One, what business brings you here?" The old man beside the convoy asked coldly. "Nothing serious. I just want to ask you all to wait here for 5 days. After 5 days, I'll naturally let you through," the one housekeeper replied with a smile. "So the trouble at Immortal City was indeed your One Clan's doing," the old man frowned. "How can you call it scheming? It's just ordinary business competition." The one housekeeper shook his head. "And if we refuse to stop?" the old man asked with narrowed eyes. "Then we'll have to offend you," the one housekeeper snorted. On the backs of the crown birds, arrows appeared. These arrows were not ordinary. They were crafted from fire crystal. This crystal used a cultivator's spirit force as fuel. Once launched, if spirit force was present, it would ignite into blazing fire. The Fan Clan convoy was almost entirely composed of true Meridian cultivators. If struck by these fire arrows, more than half of them would likely perish. And the One Clan's people were watching like tigers ready to pounce. "Do you think my Fan Clan will just submit like this?" The old man snorted coldly. "Then try us," the other side replied without weakness. The old man's aura surged with the might of an Imperial Meridian cultivator. Opening his arms like an eagle, he soared into the air straight at the crown birds. At the same time, he gave a sharp command: "Protect the young lady. Leave this to me." Loose. On the One Clan side, there was no hesitation. A dense barrage of fire arrows rained down from above. It was like a storm of arrows, overwhelming and endless. "Form the formation," someone in the convoy shouted. Nearly 100 people gathered into a circle. Their spirit force intertwined and fused together. At this moment, the 100 of them breathed as one, their energy in perfect harmony. Their combined power formed a barrier that blocked all the fire arrows outside. But the fire arrows fed on spirit force. Flames rose, burning the barrier bit by bit. The blaze grew fiercer, threatening to overwhelm it. In the skies, the old man was already battling the One Clan's people. His cultivation methods seemed to be eagle-based. Every move was sharp, every strike like that of a raptor. His limbs were like talons, each blow tearing at the void. Even a crown bird, if struck, would be crippled if not killed. Among the One Clan group was also an Imperial Meridian cultivator, who fought him head-on. The others continued raining fire arrows down. The barrier was surrounded by growing flames. Inside, the heat could already be felt. "Damn it, we need to charge out," someone whispered urgently. "At this rate, we'll be roasted alive." The young lady is still inside. Without Chief Steward Chen's command, no one is to leave. Inside the barrier, voices grew restless. Seeing the situation worsening, the curtain of the carriage at the convoy center was suddenly pulled aside. The maid in green who had spoken with Su Zimo before stepped out. Her gaze was calm. She looked up at the two fighting in the sky. In a crisp voice she said, "Chief Steward Chen, my lady orders you to stop." The old man in the air quickly disengaged from his opponent and looked at her. "Give me 3 more minutes. I can definitely finish him," he said. "No need. This fire is too dangerous." The maid in green waved her hand slightly. She glanced at the burning fire arrows around them, her meaning clear. Then she lifted her hand. Her seemingly frail body suddenly erupted with terrifying might. With a boom, icy spirit force descended. All the blazing flames were instantly extinguished. The One Clan cultivators in the sky stared, dumbfounded. The maid in green raised her hand again. The heavens shifted, clouds churned. Empyrean might swept across the battlefield. Endless spirit force surged forth, condensing into a colossal hand in the void. The giant hand descended, shattering the air. Not good. The One Clan's Imperial Meridian cultivator felt the crushing pressure first. He shouted, "Run!" Abandoning his crown bird, he bolted into the dense woods. But as the giant hand fell, all others besides that one Imperial Meridian cultivator were annihilated. Then, with another flick of her hand, the escaping cultivator was struck down, unable to dodge. The maid in green walked step by step toward his fallen form. The One Clan's cultivator looked terrified, swallowing hard. "I bear no malice toward you. I only came to block you, I never meant to kill," he hurriedly explained. "That doesn't matter," the maid said calmly. She grabbed his neck, lifting him into the air. As his breath grew weaker, his face turned dark blue. Knowing death was certain, he gave up begging. Instead, he laughed bitterly through his struggle. "They say the Fan Clan's patriarch has died, and the young lady cannot hold up the clan alone. But to think she has a master like you by her side, many people's plans will fall apart. That's not your concern," the maid replied. She squeezed. His eyes rolled white. Then nameless fire consumed his body, burning him to ashes that vanished into the void. Even the Fan Clan guards swallowed hard at the sight. The area was so silent, even a needle drop could be heard. No one had imagined that the frail maid would turn out to be a Saint Meridian cultivator. At that moment, only Su Zimo remained calm. He had sensed the spirit force within everyone from the start, so he already knew she was Empyrean Meridian realm. "Let's go," came the voice from inside the carriage. The people around finally snapped out of their shock, quickly reforming the convoy and continuing forward. Chapter 925 My brother, forcing the bow. "Why did the One Clan ambush you all?" Su Zimo looked at the burly man beside him and asked curiously. This man was named Gong Lei, the one who had given Su Zimo the meat soup last night. His personality was also rather straightforward. The road to Immortal City passed through deep mountains and forests, and the journey was mostly dull. The many guards whispered quietly among themselves. Su Zimo and Gong Lei had become somewhat familiar. Because the two of them walked at the back of the convoy, they didn't attract much attention. Gong Lei looked around, then lowered his voice and said, "It's just business competition. Our Fan Clan is the #1 clan in Victory City, while the One Clan is second. No matter what, they're always under our shadow. Now that our patriarch has passed away, the family has lost its backbone and fallen into internal chaos. And since the young lady has become a candidate for the next matriarch, undercurrents are stirring." "And then?" Su Zimo asked. "Before, our Fan Clan was strong, but only influential in small cities. While he was alive, the patriarch set his focus on Immortal City. This city is ranked among the top 3 in the entire Overlord region. The goal was to expand our influence and strengthen the clan further." Gong Lei spilled everything he knew without reservation. Unfortunately, before the family's store in Immortal City could be secured, the patriarch died. Coincidentally, trouble broke out at the store. You should know, this store cost our Fan Clan countless connections and resources to acquire. If it collapses, the clan will suffer greatly. So the clan elders made a wager. The young lady must resolve this crisis herself. If she succeeds, she'll be the next patriarch. If she fails, not only will she lose the position, but she'll also be forced to marry into the One Clan. "So that's how it is." Su Zimo nodded slightly. "Your young lady is not bad, then. A woman no less capable than men. Isn't that the truth? When the patriarch was alive, he protected her well. She never suffered a grievance. Now, with the coldness of the world, my heart aches for our young lady." Gong Lei sighed. Su Zimo just shook his head with a smile. By afternoon, the sky once again began to drizzle. The raindrops were slightly cold. Falling on the earth, the world grew hazy, as though shrouded in mist. Su Zimo had originally thought there would be more obstacles along the road. But instead, everything was peaceful. Hardly any trouble at all. This didn't quite fit the script he had in mind. Midway, Ji Ruobing woke up. Her injuries had mostly healed. "No matter what, I should thank you," Ji Ruobing said sincerely, looking at Su Zimo. "No need. Just don't drag me into the struggle for Holy Sun positions within your immortal extinction sacred ground." Su Zimo waved his hand. "If there's no benefit for me, I can't muster any interest." Hearing this, Ji Ruobing was silent for a while. Then she lifted her head and smiled. "Do you talk to everyone like this?" "Like what?" Su Zimo asked. "Always sharp-tongued," Ji Ruobing replied. "I only speak the truth." Su Zimo shook his head with a faint smile. After Ji Ruobing woke up, she didn't return to the young lady's carriage. She rode alongside Su Zimo instead. Although the Immortal Extinction sacred ground gives the Holy Sun and Saintess great freedom, there are still rules, Ji Ruobing said pointedly along the way. One of them is that we aren't allowed to secretly hire assassins. This time, that guy broke the rule. "But you don't have proof," Su Zimo replied. "Who said I don't have proof?" Ji Ruobing laughed softly. "I'm still alive. Even if it doesn't affect his Holy Sun position, it's enough to make him suffer." Perhaps out of boredom, Ji Ruobing told Su Zimo many things about the immortal extinction sacred ground. Of course, nothing truly important. After 7 days of travel through the canyon, Su Zimo finally saw the silhouette of a vast city on the distant horizon. The shrubs and trees on both sides gradually thinned. Carrying damp air like gears turning, the canyon seemed to sink into slumber. The immensity of the city before them was breathtaking. Anyone who saw it would be compelled to marvel. The city walls were white, truly worthy of the name Immortal City. Whether it was the towering walls, the massive gates, or even the ground beneath their feet, everything gleamed with immortal radiance. Immortal energy swirled, rising into the sky. The city was filled mostly with castles. Quite different from traditional architecture, castles and fortresses intertwined, topped with rounded roofs. They were built with luminous stones, starlit rock, and lightstone. By day it wasn't obvious, but at night, the entire city would glow with pure light. It was dazzling and magnificent. Atop the walls stood statues of 6-winged angels. At the 100-meter-tall gates, 2 silver dragons were carved. Standing beneath the walls, one could not help but feel small. At the gates, crowds bustled. People of all races could be seen everywhere. 2 burly men clad in silver armor stood at the south gate, watching the crowds intently. When the massive convoy arrived at the gate, it slowed to a stop. The curtain lifted. With the maid in green by her side, another young woman stepped out of the carriage. Her face was veiled with white gauze. Her brows curved like distant mountains, her eyes sparkling like stars, clear as the Milky Way, pure and otherworldly. Her black hair was styled neatly atop her head, with 3 differently shaped hairpins adorning it. Crystal-like pendants dangled from her delicate earlobes. She wore a flowing white gown. The hem bloomed like lotus petals, her slim waist tightly bound, her aura like plum blossoms, cold and proud. Yet when she smiled, her eyes curved like crescents, melting winter snow and bringing spring breezes. "So this is Immortal City," the white-clad woman said with emotion. She gazed intently at the legendary city before her. Those beside her, however, stared at her in a daze. "Beautiful, isn't she?" Ji Ruobing said to Su Zimo at his side. "Want me to match you too?" "Match us?" Su Zimo asked, puzzled. "A gentle lady, a gentleman's desire," Ji Ruobing replied. "Don't you want to win such a beauty?" "No need." Su Zimo waved his hand. "A good brother of mine once told me, if you like something, just force the bow." "You?" Ji Ruobing shook her head slightly. "I've yet to see you show any interest in women." Chapter 926. The Mastermind. It seemed as if she had thought of something. Ji Ruobing looked at Su Zimo with some disdain and said, "You can't possibly like men, right?" Su Zimo, who was still sitting on his horse, nearly fell off. "You damn!" He took a deep breath to calm himself down. "Then come to my room tonight and try it." "Better not." Ji Ruobing's face briefly flushed red before she quickly regained her composure and said seriously, "I need to go to the city lord's mansion to pass word of my return back to the sect. And Lu Chonghen, that debt still hasn't been settled." "Do you know how to get to the land of destruction?" Su Zimo asked. "There are celestial cranes kept in the Immortal City. When the time comes you can just ride one directly," Ji Ruobing explained. "It's simple and quick. But are you leaving now?" "What else?" Su Zimo asked back. "The Fan Clan, no matter what, saved us out of goodwill," Ji Ruobing said. "Now it seems they've run into trouble. If you don't help them, doesn't that seem a little unreasonable?" "Hold on, to be precise, they saved you." "I couldn't care less," Su Zimo replied. "But since they guided me here to the Immortal City, saving them is just a small effort anyway." The two talked as they followed the Fan Clan's convoy into the city. Don't be fooled by this convoy of nearly 100 people with its imposing aura. Within the Immortal City, it wasn't worth mentioning at all. Su Zimo saw many bull-headed, human-bodied creatures on the streets. Besides humans, these seemed to be the most numerous race here. As for the rest of the 100 races, one could only spot them occasionally. About 10 kilometers north of the Immortal City is the Minotaur race's settlement. That's why you see so many of them here, Ji Ruobing explained. They've been vassals of our Immortal Extinction sacred ground for tens of thousands of years, so they're considered a subordinate force. For a force to make an entire race submit, your Immortal Extinction sacred ground truly lives up to its name. What did you expect? Ji Ruobing replied proudly. Though your true martial sacred ground isn't bad either. The convoy continued along the main street after entering the city. The order within the Immortal City was extremely strict. In other cities, Su Zimo often saw street vendors and stalls. But here, aside from rows of shops along both sides, there wasn't a single stall or vendor. Perhaps seeing Su Zimo's confusion, Ji Ruobing explained. The Immortal City has designated zones. There are special areas for setting up stalls, but in other districts it's strictly prohibited. That's pretty good. Su Zimo nodded slightly. The convoy finally stopped in front of a shop named 100 Pill Hall. This shop was located right in the central section of the main street of the Immortal City, arguably the most prosperous location. Su Zimo couldn't help but marvel at the Fan clan's boldness to have secured such a prime spot. The convoy began to disperse, and the Fan clan's young lady, accompanied by her maid in green and an elderly man, walked up to Su Zimo and Ji Ruobing. We've known each other for a while now, yet never truly met face to face, the white-dressed young lady said politely with a smile. Let me introduce myself. I'm Fan Luoyu. Su Zimo and Ji Ruobing also gave brief self-introductions. If you two plan on staying in the Immortal City, why not visit my family's shop? Fan Luoyu said with a smile. Since fate has brought us together. You go ahead. I still have some matters to attend to, Ji Ruobing said beside him. Su Zimo knew she was heading for the city lord's mansion, so he didn't press. After bidding Fan Luoyu farewell, Ji Ruobing left. Su Zimo, meanwhile, followed Fan Luoyu and the others into the 100 Pill Hall. The moment he stepped inside, he was met with the fragrance of medicinal pills. The scent invigorated his spirit, like a spring breeze brushing across his face, refreshing and comfortable. Su Zimo began surveying the shop. It wasn't as lavish as he had imagined, but rather carried a sense of ancient elegance. The entire shop had a pale brown hue. On the left were shelves selling all kinds of medicinal pills, while on the right were herbs used for pill refinement. The shop had 5 floors in total. From what Su Zimo saw on the first floor, most were common and frequently used pills. Noticing their arrival, an old man in a green robe and hat quickly came forward to greet them. Young miss, you're finally here, the old man exclaimed. I've been waiting for quite some time. Uncle Fu, you've worked hard these past days, Fan Luoyu said with a smile. It's nothing. I've served the Fan clan my whole life, ever since following the late patriarch. I practically watched you grow up. The old man shook his head. With a sigh, he continued. Back then, when we opened this shop in the Immortal City, the patriarch trusted me to manage it. But still, trouble has been endless. I feel ashamed. The Immortal City is full of troubles. No matter who manages it, it's the same, Fan Luoyu said solemnly. In any case, now that I'm here, leave it to me. Young miss has traveled far. You must be tired. The old man nodded. I've kept a private room on the 3rd floor ready. You can rest there. No need. The shop's affairs come first. Fan Luoyu shook her head. The group went upstairs to the 3rd floor together. The private rooms there were named after plum, orchid, bamboo, and chrysanthemum, separated by their themes. Would it be appropriate for me to enter? Su Zimo asked at the door. After all, this was the Fan clan's private matter, and as an outsider, it wasn't his place. It's fine, nothing secret. Fan Luoyu shook her head. By now, this has probably already become a public matter. The room wasn't large, with just a table surrounded by seats. A maid served hot tea and some snacks. How are things now? Fan Luoyu asked. Our 100 Pill Hall, when refining pills, has 3 major suppliers for ingredients. They are the Imperial Herb Pavilion, the Heavenly Wolf Mercenary Group, and the Bai Clan. Now, all three have stopped supplying us with herbs and other alchemical materials. At most, our current stock can last half a month. After that, we won't be able to refine any pills. Fan Luoyu thought for a while before saying, "Is it possible to transport materials from Victory City instead?" "That's impossible. Victory City is at least 7 days away." The old man shook his head. "And the route is long and dangerous. If anything were to go wrong on the way, it's far too uncertain. This situation is clearly orchestrated against us. If they can stop these three from supplying us, they can also send people to intercept our shipments. So, the knot must be untied by the one who tied it." "You mean the One Clan is behind this?" Fan Luoyu asked. "No. The One Clan isn't even as strong as our Fan Clan. How could they possibly have such ability?" The old man shook his head. "My guess is they're just the ones put on the front lines. The true mastermind lies behind them." Chapter 927 Poisonous Pills. "Any clue about the mastermind?" Fan Luoyu frowned and asked. "Ever since we came to this immortal city, we've always acted low-key, never offended anyone." The old man shook his head and said, "But some time ago, someone came wanting to cooperate with us. I refused them. I don't know if this has something to do with them." "Then let's do this. Later I'll visit those 3 major suppliers and probe their attitude," Fan Luoyu said. The group then discussed some more details. When they came out of the private room, it seemed some commotion had broken out downstairs. The noise was loud. The old man frowned and hurried down. "Everyone come take a look. 100 Pill Hall's pills killed someone. Yeah, and they even try to deny it. Merchants like this should be kicked out of Immortal City. From now on, never buy anything from 100 Pill Hall again." Downstairs was in chaos. A few men were shouting. Countless people crowded at the entrance, craning their necks to look inside. When Su Zimo came down, he saw a corpse placed at the entrance of 100 Pill Hall. 2 women were crying over the body. "What happened?" Fu Bo stepped forward, frowning. "Shopkeeper, this person says our 100 Pill Hall's pills killed someone and is here to demand compensation." One of the maids who sold pills quickly explained. "Killed someone?" Fu Bo's brows furrowed deeper. "You're in charge here?" The leading man stepped forward, questioning. "Where's the pill? Let me see," Fu Bo said calmly. The man handed over a pill, contained in a transparent bottle. On it was the Fan Clan's emblem. Fu Bo took the bottle, placed it by his nose and sniffed. "Failure," he snorted. "This pill is completely a failed product, full of pill poison. How could anyone eat this?" "You admit 100 Pill Hall sold poisonous pills?" the man shouted toward the crowd gathered at the door. "I only said the pill is problematic, but whether it came from 100 Pill Hall, that is not certain yet," Fu Bo replied evenly. "All our pills are strictly inspected. How could pill poison appear?" "When exactly did you buy this pill?" "Yesterday afternoon at 5. You can go check," the man said. "You're not trying to shirk responsibility, are you?" "He did indeed come and buy a pill, but I clearly remember it was fine at the time," the maid beside them said. Fu Bo frowned slightly. Then he said, "If any pill from 100 Pill Hall has quality issues or causes accidents, we take full responsibility. But you also know all pill halls have regulations. For all grade 5 pills, transactions must be made in the shop directly. Once you leave, we do not bear responsibility." "What do you mean, now that someone is dead you don't want to take responsibility?" the man shouted louder. The other men with him also began shouting. Some even tried to smash things in the shop. "Should we just pay them something to make them leave?" the maid in green whispered. "This is bad for our business and reputation. For matters like this, either pay in full or not a single coin." Fan Luoyu shook her head. "If we pay even a little, it means admitting we sold poisonous pills." The maid in green nodded slightly. "You all should leave now, otherwise don't blame me for having you thrown out," Fu Bo said coldly. "Look at 100 Pill Hall's attitude. Would you dare buy their pills again?" The man shouted loudly. "I'm just an ordinary man, nothing compared to 100 Pill Hall. But I'm willing to take the lead, to demand justice, and not let this evil spread. Just as the standoff continued, a woman in blue suddenly rushed in from outside. Luo Yu, you came to Immortal City and didn't even tell me? Do you still treat me as your sister? The woman in blue ran in, her eyes lighting up when she saw Fan Luo Yu. She quickly walked over. Her blue dress was bound tightly with several silk ribbons, accentuating her tall, slender legs. Her face carried a touch of heroism, like a swordswoman's presence. Mu Qing, Fan Luo Yu called when she saw the woman. I didn't mean to hide it. You know I came to Immortal City because of business. I know you're busy these days, Mu Qing replied. Then she looked around and asked, what's going on here? Why are so many people gathered? The maid in green quickly explained the situation. That's simple. The woman in blue smiled and walked toward the man. Mu Qing, don't make trouble, Fan Luo Yu quickly called out. But before her words were even finished, boom! The woman in blue directly punched the man, knocking him to the ground. She drew the sword at her waist and pressed it against his neck. Speak. Who sent you here to stir trouble? What are you doing? The man's eyes flashed with panic as he shouted again. Everyone look. They're furious and trying to force me to confess falsely. The shop entrance grew even noisier. But the woman in blue was calm. She looked down at the man, smiling faintly. That trick doesn't work on me. I've lived in Immortal City for over 20 years. I've seen every kind of person. She slowly waved her sword. Blood spurted out instantly. An arm was severed cleanly. I don't want to repeat myself a second time. Next time it'll be your head, the woman said. Who sent you? The man was frozen in terror, unable to speak. Seeing her impatience, the sword sang as it swung down, stopping mid-air. It was the city lord's mansion. They paid me to frame 100 Pill Hall, the man screamed. The sword halted. His shout echoed in the air. Nonsense. You'd better confess truthfully. Don't slander the city lord's mansion. The woman's gaze turned cold. I'm not lying. It was really the steward of the city lord's mansion who told me to do this, the man said quickly. Do you know who I am? Mu Qing asked calmly. I don't. The man studied her for a while, then answered. You live in Immortal City and don't even know who I am? Mu Qing smiled faintly. I truly don't. The man still shook his head. My name is Mu Qing. I'm the daughter of City Lord Mu Chengmiao. Do you need me to explain more clearly? Mu Qing smiled. At her words, the man's face changed drastically. Still not confessing honestly? I think it's best to let people from the City Lord's mansion talk to you, Mu Qing said. Chapter 928, North City. You probably aren't from Immortal City, otherwise how could you not recognize me? Mu Qing said calmly. Seeing he couldn't keep pretending, the man's expression tightened, and the panic in his eyes vanished. My eyes were blind, but this 100 Pill Hall matter won't end here, the man said. Then black blood flowed from his mouth. He had already poisoned himself. The other burly men at his side, upon seeing this, also poisoned themselves. Their poison had clearly been hidden inside their teeth long ago, so no one had time to stop them. Seeing the ground suddenly filled with corpses, everyone's faces turned heavy. Luo Yu, next time something like this happens, just tell me directly, Mu Qing said carelessly. I'll settle everything inside this Immortal City for you. Qinger, this matter isn't as simple as you think. Fan Luo Yu shook her head with a smile. If it were something else, maybe, but business is far more complicated than you imagine. Although Mu Qing was the city lord's daughter and people in the city gave her face, unwilling to provoke her, this too had limits. It didn't mean she could act recklessly in everything, especially since this matter concerned the Fan clan. All right, don't look so worried. Mu Qing patted Fan Luo Yu's shoulder, smiling. This time you came all the way to Immortal City. You'd better keep me company. Qinger, I still have matters. Fan Luo Yu's words were cut off. Do you know what day it is today? Mu Qing asked. What day? Fan Luo Yu asked curiously. Miss, today is 7th Night Festival, the green-clothed maid quickly said. 7th Night Festival. Fan Luoyu suddenly realized. Counting the days, it is indeed now. I've just been too busy lately and didn't notice. Tonight is 7th night festival. You have to walk with me. Think of it as giving yourself some relaxation, Mu Qing said on the side. Fan Luoyu nodded slightly, not refusing. But along the way, I haven't really felt the 7th night festival atmosphere. Is Immortal City always like this? No, on 7th night festival everyone gathers in the South City. It's already decorated, every household lit up. I bet tonight there'll be fireworks and lanterns set afloat, Mu Qing explained. Would young Master Su also like to come along tonight? Fan Luoyu turned, looking at Su Zimo. Luoyu? Who is he? Mu Qing only now noticed Su Zimo's presence. She had thought before that he was just a shop assistant. As if realizing something, Mu Qing leaned close to Fan Luoyu's ear and whispered a few words. Fan Luoyu's face immediately flushed red to the ears. Qing'er, what nonsense are you saying? Fan Luoyu explained. I met young Master Su on the way here to Immortal City. I see. Mu Qing looked Su Zimo up and down, then smiled. Are you perhaps greedy for our Luoyu's beauty? Yes, you've seen through me. Su Zimo nodded seriously. When his words fell, Mu Qing was slightly stunned. She had only meant to tease Su Zimo, never expecting he'd actually admit it. A fair lady is what a gentleman desires. Beautiful things always attract people. Don't they? Su Zimo said with a smile as he sat down. You're honest. Not like those hypocritical types. Mu Qing nodded. But our Luoyu's requirements for a future husband are very high. I doubt you'll have a chance. Su Zimo originally thought to press on with bold words, but after thinking about it, he just shook his head with a smile and said nothing. Qing'er, if you keep saying this, I'll really get angry. Fan Luoyu seemed a bit restless on the side. Right now, with the Fan clan's matters unresolved, I'm not thinking of marriage. All right, I won't say more. Mu Qing quickly nodded. Outside, the daylight dimmed quickly. Perhaps it was because of late autumn. In the afternoon, Su Zimo asked around in Immortal City about the location of the Celestial Crane, since he needed to head to the Land of Destruction. The Celestial Crane traveled there once every 3 days. Now that he knew the way, Su Zimo was in no hurry. Lately, his True Fate world was growing stronger, and the power the world fed back to him was also increasing. Perhaps with the revival of Spirit Force, the entire world was undergoing an earth-shattering transformation. And this change would last for a long time. The bigger the positive transformation, the greater Su Zimo's benefits. But after some time, when the cultivation laws of the world were restored, and all beings embarked on the cultivation path, then the transformations would slow. Although Su Zimo didn't interfere in the affairs of the God world, he always had chaos keep watch for him. On the God world as well, countless powers rose, sects sprouting like bamboo shoots after rain, more and more appearing. The strongest sect at present was called Cloud Cliff Tower. Could be considered the #1 force on the God world. Below Cloud Cliff Tower, there were also rising forces like Clear Sky Empire, Rakshasa Sea, Dust Float Temple, and Monster Grotto. These forces might never know that a pair of eyes was always watching them. Every move they made, as if invisible strings pulled by giant hands, guided them in the unseen. The 7th night festival of Immortal City was extraordinarily lively. The northern city's sky was almost completely filled with multicolored fireworks. All sorts of colors, all sorts of shapes, blending together, reflecting red across everyone's faces below. Inside the city, a clear river stretched 30,000 li, endless and crystal clear. Countless lanterns floated on the surface of the river, each lantern carrying a wish or prayer. Men and women would write their wishes inside, then let them drift downstream with the river's current. Most of these wishes were about love, because today was 7th night festival. Ji Ruobing had gone to the city lord's mansion and hadn't reappeared. So tonight, Su Zimo spent 7th night festival with Fan Luoyu, Mu Qing, and the maid. So lively, the three walked the streets of North City, crowds everywhere. Stalls lined the sides, selling mostly tokens of love between men and women. Fireworks lit up the sky above. It had been a long time since Su Zimo had felt such a lively and peaceful atmosphere. Just then, a shout came from nearby. Qing'er! The group turned their heads and saw a few men coming down from a bridge not far away. Several maids followed beside them. Judging by their clothes, they were attendants. Seeing the newcomers, a faint flash of disgust crossed Mu Qing's eyes, but she covered it well. Qing'er, what a coincidence! The man held a folding fan, handsome in looks, somewhat like a pretty boy. Wang Jun, what is it? Mu Qing nodded slightly, asking. Chapter 929. The Person Behind. What? Can't I come to see you for no reason? The man said with a grin. We have a betrothal agreement. No matter what, you'll eventually become my woman. If you've got nothing important, then leave, Mu Qing said impatiently. The man called Wang Jun turned his gaze, and when he saw Fan Luoyu, a flash of brightness passed through his eyes. Who is this beauty? Won't you introduce her? Wang Jun asked. Don't go too far, Mu Qing said coldly. She pulled Fan Luoyu, wanting to leave, but Wang Jun's companions all blocked the way. This young lady, let's get acquainted. Wang Jun smiled. I am the grandson of Elder Fengyang Wang Jun. Hearing this, Su Zimo couldn't hold back a laugh. Normally, when introducing themselves, people reported the name of their sect or force. But this guy directly pulled out his grandfather's name. Elder Fengyang? Fan Luoyu looked a little surprised. It was clear she had heard of this name. Could it be the invincible immortal Wang Fengyang? That's right, that's my grandfather. Wang Jun nodded with pride, clearly satisfied by Fan Luoyu's reaction. That identity alone almost allowed him to walk sideways across the immortal extinction sacred ground. Mentioning Wang Fengyang, only those who had stepped into that level knew his strength. To dare call oneself invincible immortal was no exaggeration. His proudest feat was once being besieged by 8 immortals. The result was he killed them all in overwhelming fashion, making his name known across the world. And he himself was completely unharmed. Everyone knew that the immortal extinction sacred ground was a sect of 5 grand emperors, with 5 living fossil-like ancestor warlords. But later, when people mentioned the sect, they would call them 6 ancestors. Because aside from the 5 warlords, Wang Fengyang also counted as one. Just that alone showed his immense strength. What are you laughing at? Wang Jun turned to Su Zimo, his tone stiff. Especially seeing Su Zimo with these women made his dislike grow stronger. I just remembered something happy, Su Zimo replied. What happy thing? Wang Jun pressed. My wife gave birth to a child. Su Zimo thought for a while and finally came up with this excuse. Kid, watch your mouth, Wang Jun said coldly. Have you never heard the saying, calamity comes from the mouth? Wang Jun, don't threaten my friend. Mu Qing stepped in. If you have nothing else, then leave. I don't want to see you. Why rush? This beauty hasn't introduced herself yet. Wang Jun smiled. Fan Luoyu didn't get angry. She calmly said, just a nobody. Even if I told you, young Master Wang wouldn't know. Then I want to know anyway. Wang Jun sneered. Fan Luoyu, she answered plainly. Oh, you're from 100 Pill Hall in the city. Wang Jun immediately revealed her background. You know? Fan Luoyu frowned slightly. Logically, 100 Pill Hall was just an ordinary shop in Immortal City. For disciples of the immortal extinction sacred ground, it wasn't worth a glance. But his reaction was strange. And to instantly point out her background, that was suspicious. How do you know? Fan Luoyu asked. Not only that, I know 100 Pill Hall is currently facing endless trouble. Wang Jun smiled. If you want to know more, why not stroll with me on this 7th night festival night? If I'm pleased, maybe I'll reveal a thing or two. Luoyu, don't listen to him. Mu Qing quickly interrupted. This guy is just a spoiled young master. He couldn't possibly know anything. Who said I don't know? Wang Jun retorted. I even know the mastermind behind it. I think he's lying, Su Zimo agreed, nodding seriously. The one targeting your fan clan isn't someone he could even approach. Don't underestimate me. Among the younger generation of the Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground, I know almost all the notable names, Wang Jun explained. Because of my grandfather, many want to curry favor with me. Brother, drop the act. Su Zimo patted Wang Jun's shoulder. I've seen through this trick. You just want to use this matter to attract Fan Luoyu's attention. Then trick her into bed at night, and the next morning pull up your pants and deny everything. Don't slander me. I may love beauties, but all those women follow me willingly. Wang Jun flushed red, his voice rising. One day I was drinking with an inner sect disciple. He got drunk and told me this. Oh, and now suddenly there's some inner sect disciple. Su Zimo laughed. You're good at making things up, fabricating as you go. Stop defaming me. Your Fan Clan's shop caught the eye of that lunatic Lu Chang'an. If you don't believe me, go confront him. Wang Jun shouted almost hysterically. I've always had my bottom line. I don't need to lie to you. Lu Chang'an. Su Zimo looked at Fan Luoyu and said. Her brows tightened, as if a cloud of worry gathered on her face. Thank you for informing us, young Master Wang. Fan Luoyu said politely, then turned and left. Wait. Wang Jun froze, then looked at his companions, dumbfounded. Did I just tell her everything? Yes. They all nodded. Damn it, that kid tricked me, Wang Jun said through gritted teeth. Walking in North City, Fan Luoyu looked deeply troubled. Luoyu, don't be upset. Don't let that guy ruin our mood. Mu Qing held her arm, apologetically. It's not because of him. Fan Luoyu shook her head. You're also a disciple of the Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground. You must know of Lu Chang'an. Mu Qing stayed silent for a moment, then nodded. Just say it. I'm ready. Fan Luoyu smiled faintly. Right now, in the Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground, both the younger and older generations are split into two factions. One led by the Holy Son Lu Changhen, the other by the Saintess Ji Ruobing. Mu Qing explained, As for Lu Changhen, I don't know much, but he has a younger brother, Lu Chang'an. This man was extremely gifted since childhood, one of the most outstanding of the younger generation in the sect. His talent is no worse than the Holy Son or the Saintess, but his heart is too bloodthirsty. Even as a child, he declared he would comprehend the Tao through killing. And within the entire sect, he only listens to his brother Lu Changhen. So few dare to provoke him. Chapter 930 People from City Lord's Mansion. Hearing Mu Qing's words, the worry on Fan Luoyu's face grew heavier. I also don't understand. Someone of his level, how could he be interested in such a small pill shop? Mu Qing shook her head and said, There must be something hidden behind this. That might be the breakthrough. Lu Chang'an. Su Zimo whispered the name once, and then the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. Can you help me get in touch with him? Fan Luoyu asked. Who? Mu Qing said. Lu Chang'an. I can't reach someone of that level. Mu Qing shook her head. They already belong to the upper echelon of the Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground. Even my father wouldn't dare offend him lightly. Seeing Fan Luoyu's mood sinking lower, Mu Qing couldn't help but say, Don't overthink it. If it doesn't work out, just let it go. Getting tangled with a madman like that, your own safety is the most important. Isn't it? How could I not know that? Fan Luoyu gave a bitter smile. But this was what my father left behind. It was his greatest wish before he died. No matter what, I have to try. After she finished, Fan Luoyu turned to Su Zimo, asking with a trace of expectation, Young Master Su, do you have any solution? Yes. Su Zimo nodded seriously. Kill Lu Chang'an, and everything will be over. Fan Luoyu. Mu Qing. Fan Luoyu had still held some hope, but hearing Su Zimo's words, that hope vanished instantly. Her family did have some influence, but it was limited. Even if they invited their ancestor, it might not be enough to compete with the other side. I'll go visit the 3 big suppliers tomorrow. I'll take it step by step, Fan Luoyu said. But I will not give up so easily. Mu Qing nodded lightly, then suddenly pointed ahead. Luoyu, look in front. Someone's releasing lanterns. Let's release one too. Maybe the wish will come true. Fan Luoyu nodded slightly. Su Zimo looked up. In front of them stretched a clear river reflecting the moonlight. The river flowed slowly, reflecting not only the moon but also the colorful fireworks in the night sky. It was beautiful. Floating on the water were countless lanterns of different colors, sizes, and shapes. Looking out toward the far end, the whole river was filled with drifting lanterns. It was as if each one carried a person's wish, flowing toward the distant sea before being set free. The seventh night festival's lanterns are all for seeking marriages. Didn't you already have a betrothal? Su Zimo thought of Wang Jun just now and laughed. What meaning is there in releasing one? Why should Wang Jun be my husband?
Mu Qing snorted coldly.
That was a childhood betrothal arranged by my father and his grandfather. It was between the adults without my consent. As for my future husband, I don't ask that he be outstanding, but he must at least be an upright man with ambition. Otherwise, I'd rather die than marry. So that's how it is. Su Zimo nodded slightly. And what about you? Mu Qing turned to Su Zimo. Are you engaged? Or what type of girl do you like?
No engagement, Su Zimo smiled.
And no particular type I like. After all, I've met too many women. Various daughters of imperial lineages threw themselves at me. Even many ancient races were eager for me to be their son-in-law. Life has become boring. Hearing this, Mu Qing sized Su Zimo up and laughed. You? Keep bragging. You see, sometimes telling the truth still gets mistaken for boasting. Su Zimo shook his head helplessly. If you're so amazing, then why don't you help Luoyu with this trouble? Mu Qing countered. I am helping her, Su Zimo said. Otherwise I would have left this city long ago. Why would I still be here? Luoyu, let's ignore him. Mu Qing still didn't believe and snorted. She pulled Fan Luoyu aside. Let's go buy a lantern. Fan Luoyu turned back and gave Su Zimo an apologetic smile. By the riverside, there were many stalls selling lanterns. Su Zimo also wanted to make a wish, though he had no interest in romance. Aside from Lan Kuer, few women could move his heart. But to join in the fun, he still bought a lantern. Instead of asking for love, he wished for his family and friends' safety and long life. Sometimes life is like a rootless drifting boat. You don't know where you're headed or where the end is, but everyone keeps moving forward. No one stays in the past. Once he went to the outer heavens, he would part with his parents. At that time, he might not see them for many years. In this world, the people Su Zimo truly cared for were only a few. His lantern was star-shaped, a five-pointed star symbolizing hope. It floated slowly on the water, joining the countless other lanterns, vanishing into the vast sea of wishes. Mu Qing, Fan Luoyu, and the maiden, after releasing their lanterns, they even closed their eyes and prayed sincerely on the bank. That night, the southern part of the city was bustling. After releasing lanterns, the group followed the main street of the South City, walking on. Let's ride a flower boat, Mu Qing suggested. Fan Luoyu did not object. They rented a medium-sized flower boat, decorated with lanterns and colorful ornaments. Looking festive, sitting on the painted barge, they could circle the immortal city and enjoy the sights. But none of them were in the mood to admire scenery. Not long after boarding, a few figures emerged from the shadows. 3 in total, led by a middle-aged man in a splendid yellow robe. Miss, the man greeted Mu Qing. Uncle Su, Mu Qing exclaimed in surprise. She then explained to Su Zimo and the others, Don't be nervous. This is the steward of our city lord's mansion. Uncle Su, why are you here? The city lord asked me to bring you back, Steward Su said with a smile. My father, Mu Qing asked, puzzled. What is it? It has nothing to do with you, Steward Su pointed at Fan Luoyu. There are some matters he wishes to discuss with this young lady. Why avoid me for that?
Mu Qing frowned.
It's not about avoiding you, but he doesn't want you involved, Steward Su explained. I won't leave. Mu Qing shook her head. No matter what it is, I want to know. The master said if you won't leave, then we'll have to take you back by force. Steward Su looked at the two men beside him. They stepped forward, blocking Mu Qing front and back. Miss, don't make it hard for me. Mu Qing wanted to protest further, but Fan Luoyu stopped her. Qinger, go back. I'll be fine. Chapter 931 Extinction Emperor. But Mu Qing hesitated slightly. Your father must be thinking for your sake, Fan Luoyu said. This isn't just my personal matter. It's the matter of our Fan clan. Let me handle it myself, all right? I don't want to make things difficult for you. You know, there are some things we can't change. All right? Mu Qing nodded slightly. Then she looked at Steward Su and said, if you people dare do anything to her, I will never forgive my father for the rest of my life. With two men guarding her, Mu Qing left the flower boat, and a prepared boat was already waiting by the side to receive her. Steward Su pointed inside the decorated boat and smiled. Miss Fan, please. Can you come along with me? Fan Luoyu looked at Su Zimo and asked. Su Zimo nodded slightly. This young man. Steward Su raised his hand slightly, blocking Su Zimo's way. What? You want to stop me? Su Zimo asked, lifting his head. That's not what I mean. Steward Su still smiled. I only ask if you've thought it through. Once you enter here, it will be very hard for you to leave again. If you leave now, I will act as if nothing has happened. Su Zimo glanced at Fan Luoyu. Although she was trying her best to hide it, the nervousness in her was still noticeable. Her right hand lightly pinched the corner of her white robe, and even her breathing was somewhat heavy. Su Zimo remembered what that guard Gong Lei had once told him. Fan Luoyu had always been known in Victory City as a great benefactor. When her father was alive, he had protected her well, and she had never suffered the slightest grievance. It seems that this is what life's ups and downs are like. Her father's sudden death placed all the family's burdens upon her shoulders. With no support behind her, she still had to plunge into this dragon's den of a city. The bitterness in her heart could not be pleasant for anyone. Although Fan Luoyu had always been calm and rarely showed emotions or expressions, Su Zimo could not fully empathize, but he could understand. Let's go, Su Zimo said as he took Fan Luoyu's hand. Pushing Steward Su aside and walking inside, Fan Luoyu gave Su Zimo a grateful look. Feeling the warmth on her wrist, she didn't pull away. Instead, in the dark cabin, she found a rare sense of security. Thank you, Fan Luoyu whispered. Actually, I'm afraid. I don't even know what to do. Afraid of what? Su Zimo asked. If I tell you, can you keep it a secret? Fan Luoyu asked. Then she repeated, I'll only tell you. Even though we haven't known each other long, and barely spoken, for some reason, among all the people around me recently, not even Qinger or Uncle Chun could I fully trust. But I just feel like I want to trust you. I don't know why, maybe it's a sense of safety or something else. I can't really explain. Perhaps it was Su Zimo's choice tonight that touched Fan Luoyu's heart. By entering this boat, he had chosen to get involved in this matter. He hadn't stayed out of it and walked away. This made Fan Luoyu feel she shouldn't hide things from Su Zimo. If you want to say it, then say it. If not, then it's fine, Su Zimo replied. I can listen or not listen. Actually, I know why they are targeting our Fan clan, Fan Luoyu said. Including my father's death, it wasn't an accident. It was all because of one thing. What thing? Su Zimo asked. The two walked down a long corridor, entering a spacious hall. The hall was quiet, no guards around, only a middle-aged man seated on the chair at the head. He wore a dark blue long robe, his hair very messy. It wasn't that it was dirty, but rather that the hair itself was coarse and poor in quality. It all fell loose over his shoulders. His appearance was somewhat rugged, with thick lips, small eyes, and a slightly plump build. At that moment, he was quietly brewing tea while sitting in the chair. When they arrived, Fan Luoyu's voice suddenly cut off. The two stopped at the doorway and looked at the man. You're here, the middle-aged man smiled. City Lord, Fan Luoyu asked in surprise. Looking at him and then thinking of Mu Qing, it seemed impossible that they were father and daughter. Sit down, The middle-aged man waved slightly, motioning for them to sit. I am Mu Chengmiao. No need for much introduction, the man said with a smile. I know you and that girl Mu Qing are close, good friends. Strictly speaking, you should call me uncle. I don't dare claim such ties. Fan Luoyu shook her head slightly. I know you hold resentment in your heart. If I could avoid it, I wouldn't get involved in this matter either, Mu Chengmiao said with a smile. After all, there's no benefit to me. But City Lord, you've already involved yourself, Fan Luoyu replied. If you have something to say, then just say it. Circling around is meaningless. In that case, I won't hide it, Mu Chengmiao said. That thing, it's in your hands, isn't it? What thing? Fan Luoyu asked, puzzled. You see? I just said, don't play dumb. That's meaningless. Mu Chengmiao shook his head. The thing is good, yes, but you also need the life to keep it. Think of your father's end. Are you threatening me? Fan Luoyu asked. Not a threat, just stating the truth, Mu Chengmiao replied. Take my advice. Hand it over. With me watching over your fan clan here in Immortal City, no one would dare trouble you again. I don't understand what you're talking about. Fan Luoyu stood up and said, if the city lord insists on playing riddles, then forgive me for not accompanying further. Seeing her about to leave, Mu Chengmiao's gaze grew sharp. Before you step out that door, don't you want to think about the Fan clan's situation? And your clansmen? Watching Fan Luoyu pause, Mu Chengmiao continued, the Slaughter Emperor's imperial mark is in your hands, isn't it? The Slaughter Emperor? Su Zimo frowned slightly. In the western region of the eastern continent, among the emperor lineage sects, aside from the true martial sacred ground, the strongest was the Purgatory Sacred Ground, which had 2 emperors. Its founder was the Purgatory Emperor, and its second emperor was the Slaughter Emperor. This Slaughter Emperor, in fact, had emerged from the western region. As for the imperial mark, Su Zimo understood a little. The Slaughter Emperor had killed countless beings in his life, even cutting down his wife and children with his own sword. He truly proved his Tao through killing. After carrying heaven's will, he soon ascended to the outer heavens. It was said he had left behind an imperial mark for his successor. Of course, the story was complicated. Proving the Tao through slaughter had always been a heavily debated matter. After all, what sane person would choose such a path that denied kinship and destroyed family? To kill even one's own loved ones to perfect one's Tao. Thus, before his ascension, the Slaughter Emperor had always struggled to find a true successor. Chapter 932 Imperial Mark. The Slaughter Emperor once took in a few direct disciples and cultivated them with great effort. He wanted to pass on his Tao of slaughter. Unfortunately, in the end, all of them failed. Because within the Tao of slaughter, one must kill their own dearest kin. The disciples couldn't bring themselves to do it. So even after the Slaughter Emperor ascended, he still never found a true direct disciple. But to fill the regret in his heart, the Slaughter Emperor left behind an imperial mark. He put everything he had learned in his life into that mark. And he did not leave the mark within the Purgatory Sacred Ground, but instead let it scatter outside. He even forbade the sect from retrieving it, unless the sect produced someone who truly suited the Tao of slaughter. This imperial mark became a legend. In history, indeed, a few people had possessed the mark, but unfortunately no second Slaughter Emperor ever appeared. Those people instead destroyed themselves within their own slaughter. But that didn't stop people from frantically pursuing the mark of an emperor, especially madmen who found pleasure in killing. Su Zimo recalled the tales of the Slaughter Emperor. These were stories he already knew. Whether there were hidden truths, he could not be sure. But now it seemed that everything tied back to the imperial mark. And that mark was in Fan Luoyu's hands. Hearing Mu Chengmiao's words, Fan Luoyu slightly turned her head. She replied, I don't know where this imperial mark you speak of is. I can say this with absolute certainty. Playing dumb now is pointless. Mu Chengmiao shook his head and said, Are you really not afraid of death? Even if I had the mark, I wouldn't give it to you. Fan Luoyu said calmly. Precisely because I have the mark, I've been able to survive until now, isn't that so? If you all obtain the mark, then my life or death would no longer matter, right? Mu Qingmiao paused at her words. He hadn't expected Fan Luoyu to see through it so clearly. Indeed, if she died, the mark's whereabouts would vanish completely. That was why they hadn't laid a hand on her, instead using the 100-pill haul to lure her in. No matter how many times Fan Luoyu died, it would not be worth more than that imperial mark. Its importance was self-evident. Thinking this, Mu Chengmiao's tone softened slightly as he said, "You should know, the Slaughter Emperor's path isn't one that just anyone can walk. To force it would only lead to your own destruction, not worth the gain. I promise you, hand over the mark, and not only will your Fan clan be safe, but you will also gain my protection." Fan Luoyu turned her head calmly, not answering his question, but instead asking, "How did my father die?" Mu Qingmiao froze for a moment, then fell silent. "Bring me the head of the one who orchestrated my father's death, and I'll help you find the imperial mark." "You know that's impossible," Mu Qingmiao said. "Then there's nothing more to discuss," Fan Luoyu replied and walked straight out. "Don't mention what happened today to Qinger." Mu Chengmiao's voice came from behind. "Rest assured, I won't drag Mu Qing into this." Fan Luoyu nodded slightly. The two walked out of the boat pavilion. Looking at the colorful sky, Fan Luoyu took a deep breath. "How do you feel?" Su Zimo asked with a smile. "At first I was nervous, but later it was fine," Fan Luoyu smiled. "At worst, it's just death, isn't it?" "So what are you going to do next?" Su Zimo asked. "To be honest, before today I never thought the enemy would be this strong," Fan Luoyu said bitterly. "I thought it was just some local power in Immortal City, but I never expected the Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground to be involved." "That imperial mark is in your hands, right?" Su Zimo asked. Fan Luoyu nodded slightly. "That day, my father came to me covered in blood, handed me the mark, and told me to run with it. The farther the better, even to never stay on the Middle Continent." "Then why are you still here?" Su Zimo asked. "I want to avenge my father," Fan Luoyu answered seriously. "And now? Will you still take revenge?" Su Zimo asked. "Yes, as much as I can. Even if it means my body shattered to pieces, I don't care." Fan Luoyu nodded firmly. "Then let's go back," Su Zimo said. "When will you leave?" Fan Luoyu asked softly, looking at Su Zimo. The cool wind blew across the river. Her snow-white robe fluttered in the wind. Her black hair streamed behind her, carrying the fragrance of lavender. "I don't know. Depends on my mood," Su Zimo said. "I hope you can stay. At least then I would feel some safety. But I know I can't be selfish," Fan Luoyu said. "Staying will likely mean certain death. The ending is already written. So you can leave any time you wish, and I'll still be grateful." Su Zimo just smiled, not answering. Instead, he took off the black cloth covering his eyes. "This cloth is dirty again. Time to change it. Do you want me to find someone to look at your eyes?" Fan Luoyu asked. "The 100-pill haul has many medicines. They should help you." "No need. I know my own condition," Su Zimo smiled. Perhaps tonight's events carried too much weight. Neither of them had the mind to linger outside. They both returned to the 100-pill hall. Once there, Fan Luoyu called for Fu Bo, the shopkeeper managing the hall. "Miss, whatever you need, just say the word," Fu Bo said. "This tribulation, I fear we won't get through it," Fan Luoyu sighed. "What do you mean, miss?" Fu Bo asked gravely. "Did you discover something?" Fan Luoyu nodded slightly and instructed. "Gather the shop workers and maids later. Tell them simply, we've offended the Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground. If they're willing to stay and face hardship with us, the profits of this 100-pill haul will be shared with them in the future. If they wish to leave, give them a generous amount of travel money and let them go." "Miss, this..." Fu Bo hesitated. "If they leave, how can we continue running the hall?" "Forget about business for now," Fan Luoyu shook her head. "And you too, Fu Bo, leave early. Take whatever you want from the shop. I'm sorry the Fan clan can no longer provide for your old age." What nonsense is this, miss? Fu Bo said. This life of mine was given by the master. No matter who leaves this Fan clan, I never will. After saying this, Fu Bo turned to gather the workers. Fan Luoyu rubbed her temples, her head aching, not knowing what to do. The sun rose as usual. The mist in the sky gradually cleared, and the day brightened. Inside the city, the lively atmosphere of last night's Lantern Festival still lingered. Several uninvited guests had already arrived. Chapter 933, The Saintess Arrives. Your shop is suspected of selling pills with poison, so it is to be sealed. Several guards from the city lord's mansion walked into the shop and, without another word, announced it directly. What proof do you have? Steward Fu stepped forward to argue. Someone reported it. Whatever the case, the shop will be closed first, the guard said coldly. Once the investigation is clear, there will be a conclusion. The guard pointed at the pills in the shop and said, We need to take all of these back for examination. I hope you don't interfere, otherwise, we'll have no choice but to take you in as well. Miss? Steward Fu looked at Fan Luoyu, who was coming down from the second floor, his voice anxious. They're going to shut down our shop. They really move quickly. Fan Luoyu laughed lightly. Let them close it. I'll be waiting. Before the matter is clarified, you can only remain in Immortal City and are not allowed to leave, the guard reminded, looking at Fan Luoyu. We will have people monitoring you. Just as the guards were about to take away all the pills, a loud boom sounded. The half-closed doors of 100 Pill Hall were kicked open with a single strike. 3 young men and women walked in from outside. Su Zimo looked up and saw that in the middle was Ji Ruobing. On her left was a short-haired girl who looked very sharp and capable. On her right was a youth in a silver robe, looking somewhat roguish. Get lost, the youth said arrogantly to the guards in the shop. Who are you? The leader of the guards frowned, looking at the youth. With a smack, the youth directly swung his hand and slapped him. The guard was stunned on the spot by the slap. Let your city lord come speak to me, the youth said, tossing over a token. The guard glanced at the token, and his eyes widened instantly. A core disciple of the immortal extinction sacred ground. He swallowed hard. There weren't many core disciples in the sect, but every single one was a true prodigy. To become one at such a young age was extraordinary. Even the city lord would need to show respect. My apologies, the guard quickly said. Still not leaving? Do you want me to send you out myself? The youth raised his brows. Go. The leader of the guards waved his hand, and all the guards fled in a panic, not even bothering to take the pills. Miss Fan, we meet again. Ji Ruobing turned her head toward Fan Luoyu with a smile. Miss Ji, you? Fan Luoyu was somewhat stunned. But then something clicked in her mind. Ji Ruobing, the saintess of the immortal extinction sacred ground, is also called Ji Ruobing, isn't she? When they introduced themselves before, Ji Ruobing hadn't hidden her name. Now that she had appeared again, Fan Luoyu finally realized it. That's right. I am the saintess of the immortal extinction sacred ground. Ji Ruobing smiled. You don't need to be too surprised. You should even thank me for your care along the way. After speaking, Ji Ruobing pointed at the two beside her with a smile. Let me introduce them. They're my friends in the sect, Xian Ying and Jihong. Hello. Fan Luoyu greeted somewhat dazedly. The change in events had been so abrupt that she hadn't even fully processed it. So you're Su Zimo? The youth named Jihong stepped forward, looking Su Zimo up and down. How come you're blind? You're the one who beat senior sister Ji. Just luck, Su Zimo replied. You must have cheated somehow, Jihong said. You don't look like a master at all. Jihong, stop causing trouble, Ji Ruobing scolded him. Then she smiled and said, Let's talk inside. Don't worry, with me here, they won't be able to touch your shop. Many thanks, Miss Ji, Fan Luoyu said politely. No need to thank me. Setting aside that you once helped me, Ji Ruobing said. Lu Changzhen is that man's subordinate. Anything against him benefits me. Then does Miss Ji have any good plan? Fan Luoyu asked. No plan is needed, Ji Ruobing smiled. Just one word, wait. I think they're more anxious than us. That Lu Changzhen is a madman, reckless in his actions. In desperation, he may do something outrageous, and once he does, there will be flaws. At that time, we'll have the upper hand. Then should I keep 100 Pill Hall operating as usual? Fan Luoyu asked. Don't worry. I'll deal with the city lord's mansion. Ji Ruobing nodded. Fan Luoyu and Steward Fu busied themselves with the shop. Meanwhile, Zhihong still seemed unconvinced. He looked at Su Zimo and whispered, Will you fight me? Don't worry. I just want to test your strength. Even if I beat you, I won't tell senior sister. When you can defeat Ji Ruobing, then come find me. Su Zimo waved him off. Fan Luoyu prepared several guest rooms in the shop for Ji Ruobing and her companions. The shop resumed business. After that day, the city lord's mansion also seemed to calm down, no longer meddling in 100 Pill Hall's affairs. Though the supply of pills was limited, it was enough to last for a while. 100 Pill Hall stood on one of Immortal City's main streets, right at the busiest center. On a morning 7 days later, the street felt a little different. The once bustling avenue was eerily empty, the surrounding shops all shut tight. Autumn wind blew in from the corner, carrying fallen leaves that swirled through the air before drifting down. A sword-wielding youth walked slowly forward, step by step. Sword intent circled around him. Even those inside 100 Pill Hall could feel the suffocating killing aura in the air. Seems someone formidable has arrived, Ji Ruobing said with a smile, setting down her teacup inside the shop. This aura, it should be him, Xianing frowned. I knew he couldn't resist, Ji Ruobing replied. Come, let's go greet our old friend. Su Zimo stood by a third-floor window, splashing his face with cool water. He wiped away the droplets and tied a fresh black cloth over his eyes. The sword-bearing youth stopped quietly in front of 100 Pill Hall. With a light swing of his sword, though no visible power could be seen, an invisible sword light erupted. With a loud boom, the building before him split in half and collapsed. Lu Changhen, Ji Ruobing's voice came from the side. What business brings you here? The sword-bearing youth slowly turned, his eyes fixed unwaveringly on Ji Ruobing. Chapter 934 Peerless Genius. You shouldn't have interfered in this matter, Lu Changhen said hoarsely. Why shouldn't I? Ji Ruobing said calmly. Just because it's you? Lu Changhen, you think too highly of yourself. I didn't want to do this, but because of your meddling, they all must die. The sword in Lu Changhen's hand trembled. He stuck out his tongue and licked his lips, as if recalling something exciting. At this moment, Su Zimo also walked out from the shop. He looked at Lu Changhen, slightly surprised. The two had met before. On his way to participate in the Martial Heaven tournament, he and Monk Great Wisdom had seen a young man fighting the Undying race. That youth possessed one of the 100 battle physiques, the Undying physique. And judging by the techniques he used, Monk Great Wisdom had once speculated that he was a disciple of the Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground. He hadn't expected the two of them to meet again in such a way. However, Su Zimo felt the other should have forgotten about him already. After all, it was just a passing encounter without much interaction. Young Master Su, Fan Luoyu greeted beside him. Su Zimo nodded slightly, gave a yawn, and said, What's going on today? The street is so deserted. Nothing like its usual liveliness. Fan Luoyu lightly tugged at Su Zimo's sleeve and said, That man in front is Lu Changhen. I know. Su Zimo nodded, then looked at Ji Ruobing and asked, Can you defeat him? 50-50. Ji Ruobing replied calmly. Lu Changhen, like his elder brother Lu Changhen, was one of those rare peerless geniuses. If not for his excessive bloodlust, perhaps the contest for the position of Holy Son might have included him as well. Then I'll leave it to you. Su Zimo waved his hand. If he didn't have to step in personally, he couldn't be bothered to. After all, once he struck, it meant trouble would follow again. Lu Changhen seemed to hold quite a high position within the Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground. If Su Zimo accidentally killed him, those elders of the sect would come after him, beating the young, then bringing the old, and then the even older. Su Zimo found that tedious. Letting Ji Ruobing take action, since they were of the same sect, no matter how big the conflict got, it would remain a family matter. "Hey, how can you be so ungentlemanly?" The youth named Jihang shouted at Su Zimo. "How can you let a woman fight in such matters? Didn't you once defeat senior sister? What are you afraid of? You want to play the hero so badly." Su Zimo chuckled. "Then why don't you go?" "You." Jihang pointed at Su Zimo, speechless for a long while. "Fine, I'll go. I see now you're just a coward clinging to life." "Oh, so you could tell that too." Su Zimo laughed lightly. Jihang snorted coldly, then with a slightly broad sword in hand, faced Lu Chonghen. "Step aside," Lu Chonghen said indifferently. "I won't," Jihang said, though nervous, still standing his ground. "Do you want to die?" Lu Chonghen lifted his eyes, killing intent surging madly. "Jihang, you are not his match. Let me—" Ji Ruobing spoke from the side. The aura around her surged as she walked forward slowly. She ordered, "Xianing Jihang, you two just protect Miss Fan. Saintess, I've long wanted to spar with you." Lu Chonghen looked at Ji Ruobing, excitement flashing in his eyes. "Ancient sword style." Ji Ruobing snorted coldly. The sword in her hand pierced through layers of clouds, transforming into countless techniques that slashed toward Lu Chonghen. On this wide main avenue, there was not a single soul. Only the soaring sword aura echoed endlessly. Hiding the sword in the edge, the sword descends upon the four seas. Lu Chonghen naturally was not to be outdone. A flash of blood red gleamed along his blade, followed by an endless flood of sword intent. Two different sword intents collided, each brimming with profound meaning. One sword traveled through the ages, dazzling the world, sharp and unrivaled. Another was domineering and overflowing with killing intent, charging straight into the heavens. The extinction sword descended. "Who do you think will win?" Su Zimo leaned comfortably against the shop doorway, smiling as he asked. Jihang glared angrily at Su Zimo, still sulking over what had just happened, and didn't answer. But Xianing beside him laughed and said, "Before senior sister left the sect last time, she fought that Lu Chonghen. It was a draw, neither gained the upper hand. Now, after so long, it depends on whose progress has been greater." "It'll definitely be senior sister Ji," Jihang quickly said. "That guy surnamed Lu is nothing. Even his elder brother might not be able to outshine senior sister. One day, senior sister will surely be the one to bear heaven's will." "Seems you've got blind faith in Ji Ruobing," Su Zimo chuckled. "Of course," Jihang replied firmly. "I heard Ji Ruobing practices the sword art of the ancient emperor. While Lu Chonghen, he learns the sword art of your sect's ancestor, the Extinction Emperor." Su Zimo laughed. "This battle will be interesting to watch." The immortal Extinction Sacred Grounds founder, the Extinction Emperor, was likewise a remarkable emperor. In fact, people often compared the Extinction Emperor with the Slaughter Emperor. But the two truly belonged to different extremes. The Slaughter Emperor walked a single path to the very end, only caring about kill or be killed. Whereas the Extinction Emperor, though also excessively ruthless, cultivated the Tao of extinction, not the Tao of slaughter. While these two Taos were somewhat similar in certain respects, but the differences between Taos are distinct, and especially so when magnified infinitely further down the path. At this moment, in the middle of the main avenue, the two were already locked in fierce combat. Two opposing sword intents surged violently. The surrounding buildings collapsed entirely, yet the fight remained undecided. Extinction Immortal Slash. Lu Chonghen, dressed in green, his aura roaring within the gale. His sword intent was frenzied, filled with destruction. But Ji Ruobing's sword intent was equally unyielding, like a towering tree rising to pierce the heavens. With a loud boom, the sword intents clashed again. Space itself was split apart. The world darkened as wind and clouds churned. "Again!" Ji Ruobing snorted coldly. Behind her, the myriad tribulation cone began to manifest. As soon as her true fate appeared, she was like a true deity. Wielding thunder in her hand, she gave a light shout. Heavenly thunder tribulation. Thunderclouds gathered in the sky. But just then, a shout resounded. Enough! Do you want to destroy this immortal city? As the voice fell, an overwhelming pressure descended instantly. It forcibly suppressed Ji Ruobing's myriad tribulation cone. The thunderclouds in the sky also dispersed. Everyone's faces were shocked, all turning to look at the northern horizon. There, an elder's shadow gradually condensed into form. Grand Patriarch. Chapter 935, Clear Wind Paragon. Grand Patriarch, Ji Ruobing frowned slightly and said, "As the saintess, you should have been the leader of the younger generation, setting an example." Grand Patriarch said indifferently, "Now you actually fight duels in the sacred grounds immortal city over some trivial matters. What kind of conduct is this? Where is even a trace of the saintess's demeanor?" This Grand Patriarch wore a gray robe, holding a string of prayer beads, sitting cross-legged. Behind his head a golden will flashed, and an extremely powerful aura surged. It could be seen that although his true body had not descended, even just this remnant shadow already exerted an invisible pressure on many present. Hearing Grand Patriarch's words, Ji Ruobing had not yet had time to reply. Suddenly a laugh came from the side. "Patriarch, you overstate it. It's just conflicts between juniors. Why make such a big deal of it?" Everyone turned their heads again. They saw the void beside Grand Patriarch begin to shift. An elder in an ancient robe, with the bearing of an immortal, walked out of the void. "Clear Wind Paragon." Seeing the newcomer, Grand Patriarch frowned slightly, calling out, "You don't even know the whole situation yet, Brother Grand. Why make a conclusion with one word?" Clear Wind Paragon said with a smile. "Greetings, Patriarch." Ji Ruobing looked at Clear Wind Paragon and greeted with a smile. It was not hard to see that the immortal extinction sacred ground was divided into two factions. This Grand Patriarch should belong to the Holy Sun's side, while Clear Wind Paragon belonged to Ji Ruobing's line. "Binger, what exactly happened?" "You can speak of it now," Clear Wind Paragon said with a smile. "This immortal city is one of the main cities of our immortal extinction sacred ground. As the sacred ground saintess, I think I have the authority to manage the city, don't I?" Ji Ruobing replied. "I just happened to learn that this 100-pill hall was originally an ordinary shop in the city. But some people within the sacred ground relied on their authority and tried to take it by force. Naturally, in order to maintain the sacred ground's reputation, I intervened. I didn't expect that someone had already become so lawless. When the conspiracy failed, he simply came openly to kill." While speaking, Ji Ruobing had been looking at Lu Chonghen, and her meaning was already obvious. "Lu Chonghen, is that the truth?" Clear Wind Paragon looked at Lu Chonghen, his tone faintly carrying pressure, and asked, "So what if it is?" Lu Chonghen raised his head, looking straight at Clear Wind Paragon, and replied, "Does Paragon intend to punish me for the sake of outsiders? The sacred ground has its own rules. Whatever the punishment, I will report truthfully to the sacred lord." Clear Wind Paragon said indifferently. "In that case, then I'll just kill them all." Lu Chonghen raised his hand, pointing his sword toward Su Zimo and the others on the side. He said, "After they're dead, Paragon can then report to the sacred lord. Any punishment, I'll accept and bear myself." Lu Chonghen's words were very straightforward, and also very arrogant. "I know the sacred ground will punish me, but I will still kill them." It could also be understood that Lu Chonghen simply didn't care about the sacred ground's punishment. This was understandable. He, Lu Chonghen, was a core disciple of the immortal extinction sacred ground, and also the Holy Sun's younger brother. As for Fan Luoyu and the others, they were nothing but insignificant ants. The sacred ground would never make him pay with his life for theirs. Hearing Lu Chonghen's words, Clear Wind Paragon frowned slightly. "You can protect them for a while, but can you protect them for a lifetime?" Lu Chonghen looked at Ji Ruobing, smiling with disdain. If you really have that resolve, I don't mind either. If you kill us, then you can forget about ever getting the Slaughter Emperor's imperial mark. Fan Luoyu looked at Lu Chonghen, eyes filled with hatred as she said. She knew the man before her was the true culprit who had killed her father. Oh? So if I spare you, I can get the imperial mark? Lu Chonghen asked back. Hearing Lu Chonghen's words, Fan Luoyu fell slightly silent. Clear Wind Paragon, Grand Patriarch on the side looked at Clear Wind Paragon with a smile. Patriarch Grand, please speak. Clear Wind Paragon replied. That imperial mark is extremely important to Chonghen. And after all, Chonghen is one of our Immortal Extinction Sacred Grounds people, Grand Patriarch said with a smile. It wouldn't be right to make things difficult for our Sacred Grounds disciple over outsiders. If this 100-pill hall is willing to hand over the imperial mark, then we let bygones be bygones. How about it? The imperial mark belongs to others. Whatever is done must accord with the rules of the Immortal City, Clear Wind Paragon said directly without even thinking. And that imperial mark seems to be the Slaughter Emperor's, doesn't it? You and I both know what kind of person the Slaughter Emperor was. If Lu Chonghen walks the slaughter path to the end, in the end recognizing no kin, do you think the Sacred Ground still has any reason to nurture such a person? For Clear Wind Paragon or Ji Ruobing's faction, needless to say about letting Lu Chonghen obtain the imperial mark, they would rather he die as soon as possible. That way, the Holy Sun side would lose much strength. Clear Wind Paragon, how about this? Grand Patriarch looked at Clear Wind Paragon and continued. This matter is Chonghen's personal affair. Our Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground must not interfere. You, I, and the Saintess all step back. Our sacred ground will no longer intervene. Let him resolve it himself. How about that? Hearing Grand Patriarch's words, Clear Wind Paragon frowned slightly. This indeed left him with no grounds to refute. As long as Lu Chonghen did not violate the rules, he could not say much. Ji Ruobing originally wanted to object, but she glanced at Su Zimo behind her. The corner of her mouth curved into a slight smile, and she nodded. I have already done all I could. Ji Ruobing looked at Su Zimo and said, If you want to help Miss Fan, then the rest is up to you. This matter, our Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground will not intervene. Even if you kill Lu Chonghen, it won't matter. As she spoke, Ji Ruobing looked at Grand Patriarch and smiled. Right, Patriarch? That can be understood. Grand Patriarch glanced at Lu Chonghen, then nodded. As Ji Ruobing's figure retreated, Lu Chonghen stepped forward toward the group. I don't want to repeat myself too many times. Lu Chonghen looked at Fan Luoyu and said, The last time. Where is the imperial mark? You won't get it. Fan Luoyu replied calmly. Though her voice was calm, Su Zimo could still sense it. Her right hand was trembling slightly. Fear was a reaction anyone would have. This was nothing strange, especially when death approached. Hearing Fan Luoyu's answer, Lu Chonghen did not hesitate at all, directly slashing his sword at her head. Under this immense pressure, Fan Luoyu couldn't even move, let alone dodge. With a puff, the sound rang out. Everyone's eyes focused. They saw Su Zimo slowly extend his right hand, grabbing hold of the long sword that was about to strike. Why so violent? Su Zimo chuckled. His right hand flicked lightly, and with a buzzing sound, the long sword began to shake. Lu Chonghen only felt a great force surge from the sword. His whole body sent flying backward. Chapter 936 Play, Battle. The sound of a long sword scraping against the ground rang out. Lu Chonghen steadied his figure and suddenly raised his head. The bleak autumn wind blew softly between the two, and the sky seemed to darken. No rain fell, yet there was a heavy oppression. You stand aside, I just happened to stretch my muscles. Su Zimo turned and smiled at Fan Luoyu. Fan Luoyu nodded blankly. This black cloth seems like it needs to be changed again. Su Zimo touched the black cloth before his eyes and grinned. Looks like I underestimated you all. Lu Chonghen sheathed his sword and looked coldly at Su Zimo. You said it, killing him is fine? Su Zimo looked at Ji Ruobing and asked, Grand Patriarch already said so. Could it be false? Ji Ruobing looked toward Grand Patriarch and smiled. Grand Patriarch snorted coldly but did not answer. Seems someone doesn't take me seriously. That's truly heartbreaking. Lu Changhan's face bore a sickly smile. He stuck out his tongue, licking the blade, his eyes flashing with bloodthirst as he looked at Su Zimo. Then his long sword pierced through the formless void, carrying destruction as it came to kill. The sword was 4 feet long, the blade pitch black, with the shadow of a crescent moon carved into the hilt. When this overwhelming sword intent came crashing down, Su Zimo made no movement at all. Because his eyes could not see, in his perception everything was illusion. More accurately, abstract. His vision held nothing else, only Lu Changhan and his sword intent. Su Zimo slowly raised his right hand. A blade intent condensed at his fingertip. Then he flicked his finger. The blade intent instantly turned into a phantom shadow, shooting forth. With a crisp bang, the blade intent collided with the sword tip, and a huge force surged forth, sending Lu Changhan's figure flying back. Even the sword in his hand slipped loose and clattered to the ground. That guy! Ji Hang stood dumbfounded. He felt Su Zimo hadn't even used his full strength, like he was playing with a monkey, toying with Lu Changhan. Not in a hurry to defeat him. Senior sister, is this guy really that strong? Ji Hang looked toward Ji Ruobing, still somewhat unwilling to believe. Even though the truth was laid out in front of him. They were of the immortal extinction sacred ground. What kind of existence was that? It represented the pinnacle of power on the entire primordial heartlands. And their prodigies of the immortal extinction sacred ground were also the prodigies of the primordial heartlands. Absolutely kings among the younger generation. Every era. The holy sons and saintesses that emerged shook heaven and earth and made ghosts weep. When have I ever lied to you? Ji Ruobing replied. To be honest, before meeting him, my greatest rival had always been Lu Changhan. But later I came to know, there is always someone beyond. I still don't accept it. Though I hate that Lu Changhan guy, his strength isn't just that. Ji Hang looked at Su Zimo angrily. He hasn't even used his full power yet. Interesting. Lu Changhan stood up and bent to pick his fallen sword. Blood aura surged around him. Even the sword in his hand began turning blood red. A breeze rose, blowing his thick slanted bangs across his forehead. Time slowly passed. The blood aura encircling him grew heavier and heavier, until finally, it evolved into a roaring flood, rolling forth, soaring, surging into the sky. The blood flood enveloped Lu Changhan completely. Extinction's sword descends. All things perish. With a cold shout, his body tilted slightly. Then he rushed madly at Su Zimo. The long sword in his hand had become completely blood-red. As it swung, the sword tip trailed a blood-red streak. With a booming sound, this sword came down with immense might, like piercing the heavens, unstoppable. Seeing such a grand strike, Su Zimo chuckled. The power of creation surged in his right hand. Without dodging, spirit force transformed into a giant palm, slapping down upon the blood-red sword. This strike carried no restraint. The long sword arrived, and when Su Zimo's giant palm descended, Lu Changhan looked up, feeling as though this palm covered the sky, blotting out even the heavens. For a moment, mountains and seas pressed down, infinite might crashing upon him. It was as though the very planet had collapsed on him. Thunderous rumbling echoed like the wrath of heaven. Lu Changhan raised his sword to meet it, but his once overwhelming extinction sword now seemed like an ant. Its aura was completely crushed beneath that palm. With a single boom, the giant palm fell. The rampant sword aura was annihilated. Heaven and earth fell silent. Above, Grand Patriarch's expression shifted, though as an ancestor he held himself back. Only his eyes glimmered, peering through the mist at the spot where the palm had fallen. Dust gradually dispersed. The whole place was deathly quiet. That guy, could he have been smashed to death with one palm? Ji Hang tentatively asked. Not that simple. Ji Ruobing shook her head slightly. Suddenly, from the haze, a sound emerged. Everyone looked, and from the ruins of dust, a figure staggered out. Lu Changhan, he, Zhiheng muttered, staring. Lu Changhan's hair was disheveled, his appearance utterly miserable. His whole body was soaked in blood. Almost no intact part remained. Drip, drip, the sound of blood falling stained the ground. His current image was terrifying. But when he raised his head, his eyes were like still dead water, without a ripple. Within the calm lurked the storm of violence. Lu Changhan raised his right hand and wiped his face. Thick blood nearly blinded his vision. He looked at the blood on his hand and chuckled. Then he stretched out his blood-red tongue, slowly licking the blood. Fun! He looked at Su Zimo and chuckled. I thought in this world, among the younger generation, only a few could make me take them seriously. Now you are one of them. Fun! Su Zimo also chuckled. Don't worry. There's even more fun. He slowly raised his right hand and called, Sword, come! Before the sword arrived, invisible sword intent already permeated the void. Although Su Zimo had always favored Shadow Tyrant and preferred Saber intent, all weapon intents stem from the same source. Even if not mastered profoundly, combined with this true god sword, Su Zimo could still wield it. Sword intent surged, and with it came sonic booms. This was the sound produced as the sword surpassed the speed of light in its approach. Chapter 937, Witch Race, Born for Destruction. Everyone raised their heads to look, only to see a fiery red light shooting over from the far edge of the horizon. In the blink of an eye, in almost a single breath, the true god sword had already appeared in Su Zimo's hand. He held the sword, its tip lightly resting against the ground. The moment the true god sword appeared, it seemed like the sovereign of infinite swords. All the swords held by the people around them began trembling, almost as though they were paying homage. Even the sword in Lu Changhan's hand was no exception, trembling immediately afterward. What a fine sword! Clear Wind beside them couldn't help but exclaim. The entire blade was flawless, as though it was a peerless treasure. Light flowed across the sword body, leaving no flaw to be found. And the sword had its own spirit. This was the rarest thing of all. Su Zimo looked at the sword in his hand and sighed softly. The sword was good, but ultimately it was not his weapon. It had been forged by the Holy Progenitor, and even the sword god spirit had been nurtured by the Holy Progenitor. Su Zimo had merely obtained it. It would never compare to his Shadow Tyrant. Lu Changhan, watching this scene, showed even greater solemnity in his eyes. But besides that, there was also something else, some strange excitement. No one knew what it was that excited him. In that case, we should entertain you properly. We can't let you down. Lu Changhan looked at Su Zimo and suddenly said. Strangely enough, although he was just one person, when he spoke these words, two voices came out. One was his own, the other hoarse and magnetic. Almost like he had a split personality. Be careful. Ji Ruobing watched Su Zimo from the side and reminded him. Lu Changhan is not purely human. He has the bloodline of the witch race within him. This wasn't a secret within the immortal extinction sacred ground. Though Lu Changhan and Lu Changhen were brothers, they were born of different mothers. It was said that Lu Changhen's mother came from the witch race, and he had awakened another bloodline within himself. The witch race was an ancient race. This race possessed a very unique ability. They could absorb the power of others, not by devouring, but by truly drawing it into themselves, making it their own. And their physique was naturally capable of accommodating this power, condensing it in perfect balance within their bodies. This was the witch race. Precisely because of this ability, they were hunted across the primordial heartlands. People desperately wanted to study the principle behind this absorption, to create similar cultivation techniques or bloodline abilities. One could say that in the present primordial heartlands, it was extremely rare to encounter a witch race member, because they were all forced to hide in places far from people. Originally, the spirit force around Lu Changhan was blood red. Now it began shifting toward purple. And this purple was exceedingly strange, not like a gas at all, but thick like liquid. Nor was it purely purple, threads of black were mixed within. The black-purple aura seemed to pollute even the air. Lu Changhan lowered his sword, returning it to its sheath. His entire body seemed like a primordial beast, charging at Su Zimo. Su Zimo frowned slightly, meeting him with a punch. With a boom, before overwhelming strength, Lu Changhan was sent flying. Su Zimo's brow furrowed. He could feel it. The other hadn't taken much damage. Like a mad dog, Lu Changhan flew back only to lunge again. Su Zimo pressed forward as well, clashing with him directly. After a few exchanges, Su Zimo realized something shocking. The man's endurance was abnormally strong, and he showed no signs of fatigue. Moreover, Su Zimo began to sense that each strike seemed to siphon away a trace of his power. Such pure power! Lu Changhan, blood running all over him, still laughed wildly. It's been a long time since I absorbed power this strong. Before he could finish speaking, Su Zimo's fist was already enlarging before his eyes. With one blow, he was sent flying again. Lu Changhan staggered back to his feet, laughing. Enough! More than enough. Purple light began surging all around him. Then, he gathered together all the power he had absorbed. As this power condensed, his aura rose several levels higher. The surrounding void began to shatter. Everywhere touched by the purple radiance collapsed into pieces. Explode! Lu Changhan roared. It was as though everything was condensed into this one punch. His expression twisted with madness. When you reach hell, remember my name. You'll be no different than the other souls who died by my hand. With a boom, a heaven-shaking explosion erupted. Everyone's eardrums seemed to rupture, buzzing and ringing endlessly. But none cared about their ears. All eyes were locked on the center of the battlefield. Gales raged outward, ripping through the void, leaving echoes in the air. Lu Changhan's fist smashed into Su Zimo's abdomen. This time Su Zimo didn't dodge or block. He simply let him land the punch. Oh! Lu Changhan lowered his head, staring blankly at his fist. Even his mind went numb. He alone knew how much power he had put into that strike. Yet the man before him stood motionless. Not even his expression changed. Still having fun? Su Zimo lowered his head, a faint smile on his lips. How could this be? Lu Changhan withdrew his fist, dazed. He had never imagined such a scene. With a crisp sound, Su Zimo lifted his right foot and stomped him to the ground. His foot pressed on Lu Changhan's face, trying to grind his head into the earth. The ground beneath had long since shattered into nothing. I heard Ji Ruobing say your lust for killing is heavy. You once aimed to become a second Slaughter Emperor, even to surpass him, Su Zimo said with a smile. But do you know the biggest difference between you and the Slaughter Emperor? What? Lu Changhan turned his head with difficulty, looking at Su Zimo. The Slaughter Emperor was lucky. He wasn't born in the same era as me, Su Zimo replied with a smile. But your luck is far worse. Arrogant bastard, Lu Changhan answered. But this time the voice wasn't his original, it was the hoarse, magnetic one. With true ability, arrogance is deserved, Su Zimo smiled. Do you know why my killing intent is so strong? Lu Changhan suddenly asked. Even with his face pinned to the ground under Su Zimo's foot, he showed no anger or panic. Other than the initial shock, he had already returned to calm. Don't care, didn't ask, Su Zimo replied. No, you'll soon care, Lu Changhan laughed in rebuttal. Chapter 938 Myriad Desolation Godslaying. Hearing Lu Changhan's words, Su Zimo slightly frowned. He sensed Lu Changhan's aura beginning to change. A wave of even more violent and brutal might surged up. Then came the sound of cracking, as if chewing, and Lu Changhan's body surface also began to transform. Su Zimo retreated a few steps back. He saw the opponent's body gradually enlarge, with skin sprouting tentacles. Sticky, wet tentacles. These tentacles grew wildly, and Lu Changhan's head gradually deformed, becoming like a monster. With more and more changes, he had already deviated from the category of human. Su Zimo could only describe him as a monster. Countless tentacles, the deformed head, and the stench and damp aura from his body. Especially his eyes, a scarlet red. Seeing Lu Changhan like this, not just Su Zimo, even Ji Ruobing and Grand Patriarch had never seen such a sight. Changhan Yu, Grand Patriarch's face shifted, asking, "Now you are curious, aren't you?" Lu Changhan ignored the others, instead looking at Su Zimo with a faint smile. "Indeed, I'm a bit curious." Su Zimo did not refute, simply nodded slightly. Logically speaking, with Lu Changhan's status in Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground, he should lack nothing. How could he have turned himself into this? "My father was human, my mother from the witch race. This matter is known to everyone in the sect. When I awakened the witch race's talent, I was considered a 1 in 10,000 genius. Indeed, I thought so at first as well." Lu Changhan lowered his head slightly, looking at his current appearance, with a bitter smile, yet with some resentment. "I indulged in using the witch race's talent to absorb others' power. That feeling of gaining powerful strength without effort is intoxicating. Unfortunately, I forgot, though I had the witch race's gift, I was still half human. My body could not, like the true witch race, perfectly and harmoniously fuse the absorbed power." At this, Lu Changhan seemed to grow more frenzied. Countless tentacles rose skyward, swaying with a whooshing sound. As more power gathered inside me, finally it began to clash. I lived in daily torment. Only by continuing to absorb more power could I ease it for a while. But next time, even stronger pain followed. Gradually, I found my body changing. No longer human nor witch race, but into this loathsome form you see now. At these words, Lu Changhan's gaze grew bloodier, staring at everyone, chilling their spines. "Can you understand such a feeling? No, you cannot. Since childhood, I have endured pain, deformity, cycling endlessly, clinging to me like ghosts. I admit, my heart grew twisted, bloodthirsty, as if only killing could ease the pain inside, and also make me ever more excited. Excited in my very soul." Countless tentacles swayed in the air with his voice, then heavily smashed onto the ground. A series of booming explosions erupted down the main street. I suffered so long, and finally found something that excited me. As long as I obtain the Slaughter Emperor's imperial mark, I can continue to grow strong within this ecstasy. But all of you step out to stop me one after another. So you all must die. Hearing his words, Su Zimo slightly shook his head. He said, "Twisted is not only your form, but your heart as well. This Immortal Extinction Sacred Ground is strange indeed, to make someone like you a core disciple. Die, die, die." Lu Changhan seemed not to hear Su Zimo's words, only chanting the word die. Next, a torrential might surged from his body. Countless tentacles rose again, striking toward the crowd. Ji Ruobing and the others hurriedly retreated back. "You all watch from behind. Leave him to me," Su Zimo said calmly. He swung his long sword, the sharpness of the true god sword beyond words. Against these tentacles it was like cutting through iron like mud. Countless tentacles were severed, yet the next moment they regrew again. Tentacles came from every direction, gradually encircling Su Zimo at the center. Void oblivion. Su Zimo slowly swung his sword, the intent of annihilation spilling out, permeating the void. All tentacles were instantly shattered to dust. Su Zimo stepped into the air, flying out of the encirclement. "You cannot escape," Lu Changhan roared from below. He shot skyward, his entire being like a missile streaking forth. Those tentacles brimmed with all kinds of powers. They were no longer mere tentacles. Lightning, flames, golden essence, ice, even storms. Each tentacle embodied a force, with dozens of attributes though many repeated. Lu Changhan followed close behind, giving Su Zimo no chance to breathe. Tentacles attacked from every direction, their various elemental strikes bombarding madly. They devoured and annihilated the entire stretch of sky above. "Senior sister, can that guy handle it?" Jihong asked Ji Ruobing, should we help him? For now Lu Chonghan looked terrifying, his violent aura nothing like an ordinary god Meridian. Saying he had stepped into immortal path would not be too much. One must know, most of the younger generation kept their strength at God Meridian, not advancing further, because they aimed to compete for heaven's will, thereby entering the path of Tao. Only if one failed in heaven's will, those who survived would be forced onto the immortal path. That is the essential difference of Tao and immortal. Trust him, Ji Ruobing nodded. Besides, with Grand Patriarch watching, it's not possible for us to gang up on him. Die! Lu Chonghan roared again. His whole body lunged toward Su Zimo, as if to engulf him and drain away all his strength. Just in time for you to try this new move, Su Zimo said unhurriedly. He gripped the true god's sword and called out, Sword God Spirit. The entire sword surface shone brilliantly, streams of sword aura, countless as air itself, filling the surrounding void. Back then, the holy progenitor used the true god sword to open the desolate era. The moves he had used were imprinted upon the sword, like a brand. Whoever wielded the true god sword could sense this brand, as if the holy progenitor's grandeur still lingered before their eyes. Myriad desolation godslaying, Su Zimo intoned softly. The true god sword slowly lifted, and in the next instant, the countless sword aura around him all moved with it. Chapter 939 Land of Destruction. These sword auras were not as weak as ordinary sword auras. They were sword auras of the true god sword, and each sword aura carried the power of the holy progenitor. Within a tiny sword aura was contained a strength as vast as an ocean, unfathomable, boundless. Su Zimo stood at the center of the sword aura. When he swung the true god sword, the tens of thousands of sword auras began to gather toward it. Finally, at the tip of the true god sword, a massive and illusory sword took shape. It was as if the true god sword was in Su Zimo's hand, and this illusory sword was connected to it. This illusory sword had once been named Godslayer by the holy progenitor. It ended the reign of the blood-rune beasts at the end of the legendary era and also brought the legendary era to a close. From there, it created the desolate era, also called the Savage Wilderness era. It was a name with commemorative meaning, and also a sword with epic-defining significance. This was the power granted by the sword soul of the true god sword. Su Zimo felt as if he had returned to that primitive age of raw survival. He seemed to be the holy progenitor himself, forging ahead, opening up a new era. This sword was eternal, as though it traveled through time, from the Savage Wilderness era into the Imperial era. Carrying the intent of boundlessness, it directly slashed down. Of course, all of this was only Su Zimo's personal experience. To outsiders, this sword appeared plain and unremarkable, as if Su Zimo had casually swung his sword, an ordinary slash. Rest in peace, bozo, Su Zimo said with a light laugh. The monster before him fell completely silent. Su Zimo sheathed his sword and stood tall, while Lu Chonghen looked at him. He hadn't even spoken the word, "Why?" before his body instantly shattered into pieces. He broke apart, turning into heaps of bloody flesh. All the chaotic powers within him clashed violently, some dissipating into the void, others exploding outright. Su Zimo walked out from the explosions, while the true god sword disappeared into the void. At the side, Grand Patriarch's face changed drastically. After a moment of silence, his eyes flickered. Your sacred ground won't come after me for this, right? Su Zimo looked at him with a light smile. Boy, what's your name? Grand Patriarch asked coldly. Su Zimo, Su Zimo answered with a smile. What? Do you want revenge? Grand Patriarch snorted coldly, then looked at Clear Wind Paragon and said, Brother Clear Wind, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. If Brother Grand has the time, come to my cave mansion for a drink. Clear Wind Paragon stroked his long beard and said with a smile. When Grand Patriarch's figure finally disappeared into the void, Clear Wind Paragon turned towards Su Zimo and said, You are impressive. Many people say that, Su Zimo replied with a smile. If you're interested, You can come and take a look at my immortal extinction sacred ground, Clear Wind Paragon said. Ancestor, he is the holy son of the true martial sacred ground. Ji Ruobing quickly explained from the side. She could tell that Clear Wind Paragon wanted to recruit him, and to avoid a misunderstanding, she reminded him. Upon hearing Ji Ruobing's words, Clear Wind Paragon paused for a moment. With some regret, he laughed and said, I nearly forgot. How could a mere rogue cultivator possess such strength? Most likely, only someone trained by an imperial lineage could. Thinking of this, Clear Wind Paragon added, Those old fellows of your true martial sacred ground must be laughing even in their dreams. Ancestor, you're praising others too much. Am I that bad? Ji Ruobing said a little sourly. Not bad, not bad, Clear Wind Paragon replied with a smile. You young people should exchange more with each other. As for this old man, I won't intrude. You're always welcome in our immortal extinction sacred ground. After saying this, Clear Wind Paragon's projection also faded away. Looking at the devastated ground, these matters would now be left for City Lord Mu Qingmiao to worry about. Su Zimo didn't blame Mu Qingmiao. After all, he hadn't done anything too excessive, and the true culprit was Lu Chonghen. Besides, because of Mu Qing, this matter could be considered settled. With Ji Ruobing around, they likely wouldn't target the 100-pill hall again. Master Su. Fan Luoyu stepped forward and gave Su Zimo a deep bow. Enough. I didn't save you because I wanted your gratitude. Su Zimo waved his hand and said. Fan Luoyu removed the sachet from her waist, taking out a transparent crystal-like object from inside and placing it before Su Zimo. Inside the transparent crystal, it was blood-colored. This is... Su Zimo seemed to guess and said, The imperial mark of the Slaughter Emperor? Fan Luoyu nodded slightly. You're bold, carrying it on your body. Su Zimo laughed. The most dangerous place is often the safest, Fan Luoyu replied. I want to give it to you. Because I saved you? Su Zimo asked. That's part of the reason, Fan Luoyu nodded. I know many people outside covet this thing, but I cannot use it. I understand the principle of treasure invites trouble. I believe you are capable of holding it. Although it's not much use to me, keeping it isn't a bad thing, Su Zimo said, taking the imperial mark and tossing it into his True Fate world. He thought about whether to give this imperial mark to one of the natives of the True Fate world. Maybe that would be interesting. Seeing Su Zimo accept it, Fan Luoyu smiled, her gaze sincere as she looked at him and once again said, I know that Master Su is like a golden dragon in the heavens. Unreachable. I will only silently watch from the ground, praying for you, waiting for the day you bear the heaven's will and rule the world. To reach the land of destruction, Immortal City had special white cranes. They flew there once every 7 days. After bidding farewell to Fan Luoyu, Su Zimo and Ji Ruobing came to where the white cranes were kept. You're going to the land of destruction too? Su Zimo asked in surprise. Can't I go see it if I have nothing better to do? Ji Ruobing retorted. That's true. It's your freedom where you go, Su Zimo replied. But don't follow me. I have things to do. You! Ji Ruobing glared at him, then directly boarded the white crane. In truth, she was going because of Su Zimo. Before leaving, Clear Wind Paragon had secretly transmitted to her, telling her to build ties with Su Zimo. She understood the general meaning of it. But by accompanying Su Zimo, she held no thoughts of personal gain. It was simply because she wanted to. Just as men liked beautiful women, how could women not admire heroes and strong men? It was just a little secret thought of hers. The white crane spread its wings, each stretching 100 meters long. Of course, on its back was built a vast platform. Underfoot were planks of banyan wood, with railings on both sides to keep people from falling off. There were many seats on top, and passengers could sit or stand by the railings to enjoy the view of the skies. Chapter 940 City of Destruction, Longevity Due. A single white crane could carry about 10 people. This was not because the crane could not carry more, but because the cranes were also divided by rank. Depending on the price, one could choose different grades of cranes. When Su Zimo and Ji Ruobing stepped onto the back of the crane, the other 8 seats were already filled. The two of them sat down quietly. Hundreds of cranes took off together, flying toward the land of destruction. The sky was as clean and blue as if it had just been washed. As the cranes spread their wings, the thick clouds were split apart, scattering before their eyes. Such a sight was rare during the misty rains of late autumn. Even one's mood was lifted by it. "Are all of you heading to the land of destruction as well?" an old man asked with a smile. Beside the old man sat an elderly woman. The two looked like a couple, leaning against each other affectionately. "Yes," a burly man sitting nearby replied with a grin. "I've heard the land of destruction has been restless lately," the old man continued. "You should all be careful. Isn't that exactly why we're going there?" the burly man said with a laugh. Hearing him, a man with his hair tied back, holding a curved blade and exuding a sharp, cold aura, suddenly snorted in disdain. "There are always people who want to try their luck, without strength. Going there is just throwing your life away." "Who says I don't have strength?" the burly man retorted. "In our Ox Village, I've beaten everyone without rival." "Ox Village?" The tied hair man's face showed even deeper scorn. "Must be some closed-off little mountain village, ignorant and small." "That's none of your concern," the burly man said flatly. "The blood rune space had a flaw appear. The Lord of Destruction issued a bounty, and anyone can take part." "Alas, another life wasted," the sword-wielding man sighed. "You're not going for the blood rune space as well, are you?" Ji Ruobing asked Su Zimo, probing. She hadn't paid much attention to the land of destruction before, but seeing so many people heading there, something significant must have happened. "You could say yes or no," Su Zimo replied vaguely. He was going for the ancient celestial court. The blood rune space was just incidental. What exactly happened with the blood rune space? Su Zimo turned to the burly man and asked, "Can you tell me more about it?" "Another one rushing to die," the tied hair man sneered. "Doesn't matter if I tell you. By now, everyone knows about it in the land of destruction. You'll understand once you get there." The burly man laughed. "You should know the blood rune space's sealed location is right here in our Overlord region's land of destruction. That much I won't explain further. The land of destruction has always symbolized ruin since ancient times. Even the imperial lineages avoid meddling there. That's why the ruler there is called the Lord of Destruction." The burly man paused to collect his thoughts, then continued. "Some time ago, a crack appeared in the blood rune space's seal. Though it was patched quickly, a small number of blood rune beasts still escaped." "You're all going to hunt blood rune beasts then," Su Zimo realized. He had thought something went wrong with the ancient celestial court. "That's right. The land of destruction put out a notice. Anyone who captures blood rune beasts will forever be a friend of the land of destruction." The burly man's face lit up with excitement. "And everyone will receive longevity dew, brewed personally by the Lord of Destruction." "Longevity dew?" Su Zimo asked with surprise. "What's that? You don't even know that?" the burly man quickly explained. "It's a rare item that lets one's spirit travel the path of immortality. They say with enough longevity dew, you might even comprehend the Tao of Fate." "Fate? One of the highest primal Taos? That's ridiculous," Ji Ruobing said in disbelief. "You just don't understand," the burly man replied. "They say longevity dew is even listed among the Grand Thousand Treasures. And the Grand Thousand Treasures are ranked in the outer heavens. Rumor has it longevity dew came down from there." As he spoke, the burly man made a mysterious gesture, pointing upward to the sky. "You know quite a lot," Su Zimo said with a smile. "Outer heavens, Grand Thousand Treasures. This man's identity didn't seem so simple. What sort of place was this so-called Ox Village?" "Don't underestimate me," the burly man laughed. The old man sitting nearby also chimed in. "What he says is true. The longevity dew really does have the power to aid in comprehending the Tao of Fate. They say it is condensed essence from the longevity tree itself. Although it's very difficult to comprehend, it has indeed happened before. Hearing this, Suzimo thanked them and nodded. It seemed this trip would indeed be lively. The journey passed without conflict. The group rode on the crane's back. Although the distance from the immortal city to the land of destruction was not particularly long, it still took about 2 days. They spent the time watching sunsets and sunrises in rare tranquility. Finally, by noon on the second day, the cranes approached the borders of the land of destruction. From the sky, one could clearly see the contrast. The land of destruction was the complete opposite of the world outside. Its ground was black, as though scorched by a massive fire. The heavens above were also pitch dark. Even the air carried a trace of decay. The land was barren, without a blade of grass, eerily desolate. Human presence was sparse, with only the occasional vulture circling in search of carrion. "We're headed for the city of destruction," Ji Ruobing explained beside him. "Tell me more about the land of destruction," Suzimo asked. "There's not much to it. The city of destruction is the largest city here. Nearly 80% of people gather there. It's also ruled directly by the Lord of Destruction," Ji Ruobing said. "As for the outer areas, like the borderlands, there are only scattered tribes. They form and split constantly, hardly worth mentioning. And this Lord of Destruction, what is he exactly?" Suzimo asked. "That I don't know. They say since the land of destruction came to be, the Lord of Destruction has existed. He is the true master of this land," Ji Ruobing answered. "No one knows his origin. He commands 8 martial gods who each manage part of the land of destruction for him. But as for himself, he's as elusive as a dragon, mysterious and unseen." "Interesting," Suzimo chuckled. At last, the crane entered the land of destruction, racing swiftly across the gloomy land. In the distance, the group finally saw a massive city standing tall upon the scorched earth.